Welcome in, folks. Chris Nozick here with Puck Off, joined by Kenny Kaminsky again and Joey McAuliffe. We are hanging out as we watch overtime of Minnesota and Vegas, and we got Leafs coming on shortly in their what could be their deciding game. How you boys doing tonight? You guys enjoying the playoff round so far?
Yeah, it's been fun. A lot of hockey going on. We got Providence and USA playing in the U18 Worlds as well. So just a lot of hockey in a short span, which I love.
And it's all good hockey.
Of course.
So, what about you? How are you enjoying it, Joey?
Man, I'm loving it. This is the best time of the year for a reason. Not just for hockey fans, but sports fans in general. I mean, you got baseball going on, you got NBA playoffs going on, you got NHL playoffs going on, you got the Worlds like you just mentioned, and then for the real hockey sickos like myself and you guys, you've got the AHL playoffs going on. So I've been
AHL
glued to the
playoffs
TV most nights.
And for those who care about it, the NFL draft this weekend.
Yep. How about
it's just
right. Vegas and Minnie are trading blows right now.
Oh yeah. This series has gone back and forth. Kenny, you and I had talked about it when we were picking, and I think in every single one of my brackets, I went with Minnesota to win the series. And then as I was writing it separate from my other series and not really thinking about my whole bracket, just the one series, I'm like, how can I pick against Vegas? It's got to be Vegas. And now I'm like, what the fuck?
I
Vegas.
I remember we had this conversation. I was like, I understand where you're coming from, but I just can't pick against Vegas. And then now this is happening, and it's just the same thing with Colorado. I said, how can you pick against Colorado, even though Dallas is a great team and Dallas is up in the series? But that one's a little bit different because those were, 1-goal games in overtime. Puck bounces another way. This could be a 3-0 series in favor of Colorado. So what can you do?
Yeah,
that's what makes a good series.
Yeah, bounces and then of course we both were talking about Florida Tampa going 7, and then Tampa loses both at home, and then they win today on the road. It's like
convincingly.
Oh yeah, too. Absolutely. They made a statement in that game, and the precedent has been set. Now what are we going to see Tkachuk suspended for his interference hit?
It's kind of just been a mess in that series. And honestly, I remember we talked about it. We were both pretty high on Ottawa, but I still don't feel bad about that pick. I mean, Ullmark didn't have a great first game, and then the other two were close, and they could have went either way, same thing. So it's unfortunate, and the reason I bring that up is because you saw somebody, I think Nick Cousins, get suspended for shooting the puck at Stolars during warm-ups.
Fined.
It's just been
He got the fine for it.
Fined. So, yeah,
and
fined.
CJ just announced, by the way, about 10 minutes ago that there's been another incident pre-game between Ottawa and Toronto.
Like from today's game?
Yeah, he didn't. Let me do the Twitter. So per Chris Johnson 10 minutes ago, or wait, never mind. Oh, I'm totally wrong. I completely read that wrong. I thought it said more fines coming.
Oh, I got you.
It's the one from the other day. I thought it was okay. Disregard everything I just said. I'm an idiot.
No worries. I was like, really? I mean, I looked at that and I went, really? We're not having any fun? Come on.
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing? You guys ever see the meme, the gif of Taylor Twellman? What are we doing?
Yeah.
I'm just sitting here. I'm like, as Elliot Friedman always says, like, you can't complain that your players have no personality, and then as soon as one of them shows personality, go, no, you got to fork over $2,500. That's not the personality we wanted.
We want you to have a personality. We want you to be yourselves, as long as you're doing it on our terms and strictly following our guidelines.
And let's
by
be
the
honest,
way, Sorry, Chris, go ahead.
I was gonna say, let's be honest. Not one person looked at that clip and went, "Yeah, he's trying to hurt him."
No, we all went, "You're such an asshole." Like everybody has a buddy like that guy that you just like, could you not for like 5 minutes? Like you're laughing, but you're like, you're such a
yeah. Just so stupid. I gotta say, shout out to Karen. She is an original puck off watcher here. She's been with me since the very beginning. She actually sent me a hat, one of the Winter Classic hats from I think it was when they were at Fenway. So I got to shout her out. And Bear Force 1 in the comments as well. He wants to know who we are each cheering for to win the cup. Not necessarily who we think will win it, but who do we want to see win it?
Who do we want to see? I would love to see Colorado win it because Charlie Coyle, and I have no hate against Colorado. As long as like Toronto or Florida doesn't win it and Florida advances 2 rounds, then I could care less.
I'm kind of the same way. If Vegas won it again, I wouldn't be happy per se. Kobe Minor from Memphis going to the Patriots. Kobe is what position is he? What position do they stock up on? But there's really only two bad outcomes to me of the Stanley Cup playoffs, and one of them would be a Leafs win. And I mean, like I've seen Vegas win before. That doesn't mean I'm in any mood to watch them win again. So I mean, before the pot or before we went live, I was ranted to Chris a little bit about one of the calls that went Vegas's way in just a couple minutes ago, game time, just about 10 minutes ago in game action. Uh, I'd really rather not see them win the cup. Outside of that, if Minnie won it, that would be sweet. If Colorado won it, I'd love to see Brock Nelson win the cup. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't really say there's a team that I don't want to see win the cup. For the most part, there's reasons to root for each team, in my opinion. Washington, you've got the Ovi storyline, winning a cup the same year he breaks Gretzky's record. I mean, tell me that wouldn't be, an awesome thing to witness all in one year. Montreal, if you were to see a team like that young, especially now that they might have to turn the net over to Jakob Dobish, like that would be fun. As much as I hate Montreal, it would be fun to see. The Leafs, I mean, I remember 2004 when the Red Sox finally won the World Series. So, to be able to sit there and go, they finally did everything right. It would be nice. It would be even funnier, though, to say, hey, they finally did everything right, and they still lost. So, watching their path to get there would be more fun. Bear Force says, I'm cheering for the winner of Colorado, Dallas to win it all, but as long as it's not the Habs or the Leafs. I get that. I mean, I prefer they don't win it. I do think it'd be a lot of fun to see Minnesota go the distance. I mean, think about Marc-Andre Fleury winning one more, his 4th on his way out. So I have
a tough time.
Really, the only one I don't want to see win it would probably be St. Louis.
Why is that? Well, you guys got upstaged by Montgomery and then
2 reasons.
Game
One,
7-19.
As I say, one, Jordan Binnington is just the most punchable face in the entire league.
I can't argue with that.
And 2, I don't want to continue to hear Jim Montgomery this, Jim Montgomery that, Jim Montgomery this, Boston and Jim Montgomery, Boston and Jim. I don't want to hear it.
You're gonna hear that for the rest of time. It's Bruins fans. People were after the game 1 loss, Providence suffered. You saw the same thing. You saw the same thing. People talking about how the prospects suck and that this organization doesn't know how to develop anybody. And it's like, relax. Ooh. They lost 1 game in the playoffs and they had 40 shots on goal and they only gave up 15. Like, it's not that bad. And
they got goalied.
Yeah, Colton Ellis looking like Jordan Binnington is just unfortunate.
I got to watch Ellis. I got to watch Ellis live about 2 months ago. That kid is legit. If I'm thinking of the right guy, he's a little bit undersized, but he makes some ridiculous saves.
Yeah, he's gonna make things interesting for that St. Louis net soon if he can continually do what he's been doing.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'll also console you a little bit. Calm you would be a better word, perhaps. I don't see St. Louis winning the Stanley Cup. I mean, if they get past Winnipeg,
I don't see it either. I'm just saying
Exactly.
I really don't want to see it. So
Yeah, I get that.
Of all the teams, that's the one that I'm like, as long as it's not them, I can justify being okay with literally any other team. I can be okay with it. Would I be thrilled if Florida won it? No, I wouldn't be thrilled, but it would be nice to see Brad get his second one.
Didn't you have St. Louis in the first round? I think we had different on that. I was like, yeah.
No, I can see them advancing past Winnipeg, but
Yeah.
I don't want them to get past that. I don't want them. I'm not, I sure as hell, I'm not rooting for them to win the cup.
No. Well, even
I
if they
also
do,
like
right? They got to take on Dallas or Colorado, and then Vegas after that, maybe. Or I just don't see it. I don't see the path, anyways. So, but who knows?
I'll tell you, I really like. Oh, here we go. Here we go. That went in. Come on. Is it obvious I'm rooting for Minnesota? I was literally just about to say, like, I don't know why, but like as an Islander fan, I've always liked Minnesota. It never really made sense. I have no family from Minnesota. I mean, like, I wasn't a big Nino Niederreiter fan. I really had no reason to like cheer for anybody on Minnesota, but it was always just like, yeah, they're a cool team.
I feel like
Yeah.
everybody has a West Coast team.
They're that team
Well,
where it's like, oh, it's cute, you tried.
Yeah,
You almost
the
got
way
there.
urinating tree puts it is forever close, but not close enough.
Yeah.
Oh wait, who's going to the sin bin here? Bruce
Wah.
Cassidy whining about it.
Wah.
Bruce
For
Cassidy
holding.
whining about officiating for holding. Okay. Oh man, this would be huge. It's kind of surprising because I mean, listen, it's a West Coast matchup, and West Coast teams naturally, because we're here on the East Coast, like we don't get to do as good of a job like getting familiar with these guys.
Yeah.
But like this is a goaltending match.
Oh, I think we're losing them.
Losing me.
You're back now. Was he cutting in and
yeah.
out on you, Kenny?
Yeah.
All right.
My bad. Sorry about it.
No, it's fine. You're good now. You were talking about the goaltending, though.
I don't know anything about either of these goaltenders. I mean, I know they're goaltenders in the National Hockey League. I know one of them won a Stanley Cup, but like, I mean, like outside of that, like Philip Gustafson did he play
Oh,
in what? No.
now you're
about
cutting out again.
Well, yeah. What about
Okay,
Phil Gustafson?
I'm gonna get my Ethernet cable set up here. All right, 1 second.
All right. I'll bring you back on here in just a minute when I see him back. But yeah, definitely a good matchup here between. I mean, we were talking about it before. There isn't a bad first round matchup because even New Jersey and Carolina is turning into a hell of a battle after the fact that New Jersey just took that one.
Yeah, I mean, and New Jersey's kind of another lovable team where like they don't really have anybody on there that I don't like. It's just and I honestly think they're going to be set up for the future as well once they're healthy. So this would be a big win. This would kill Carolina right now. I mean, just
Well, let's also not forget they're going to get Quinn Hughes in the next 2 years based off of, the control in which Vancouver has.
yeah.
All right, Joey, you good with the cord over there?
Yeah, I
got
hate
no audio.
my
There he is.
Okay. Am I good now?
You're
Am
good
I doing
now.
all right? Okay.
So far.
I hate the audio in my office complex because it means that I always have to be using Ethernet in order to get anything accomplished when it comes to recording because it just dies on me.
That sucks.
What I was saying is that I don't know if they're both National Hockey League goals, but I mean, like out of like some very surface level stuff, both of these goaltenders are guys that I don't watch a lot. So I've been really happy to watch two guys that I'm pretty unfamiliar with, if that makes sense. It's just nice to learn about them in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
it's
a lot of. Oh, now we got the other game starting too. They just dropped the puck in Toronto. or in Ottawa against Toronto in that matchup. So I got to say, I'm super disappointed in ESPN's coverage. TNT not sending people to Winnipeg is dumb as all hell. I at least can understand it because like you're sending so many people. At that point, I'd say just let the local broadcast people handle it and just say, hey, we're going to plug into your feed. Probably save you money.
I'm not shocked. ESPN did always does a terrible job with the NCAA and their coverage of the college hockey championship. So I was like not shocked once people are now complaining about ESPN. I know this. I knew this whole time that it was just going to be a problem, and it sucks that they decide not to send people to the places. Obviously, watching it on TV is completely different. Plus, the audio on ESPN is like messed up, so like you don't really hear like the crowd noise or anything. Just a complete mess. And I think I said something once about not liking ESPN to cover hockey, and somebody was talking about growing the game, and I'm like, well, is this really growing the game in the right way? Is this really the thing that we want to put out for other people to see?
Honestly, at least throw a few $100 million to Sportsnet and be like, let's use your feed. Like, can we just use your feed and broadcast it here with our commercials and our, overlays of certain things? Like, do something for that. I mean, think about all the audio quality that they messed around with in Winnipeg with that crowd and the whiteout and all that stuff. Also, you're talking about growing the game. How the hell are you going to grow the game if you're airing the games on ESPN? You have ESPN all season for, I don't know, whatever it is, 125 games. And those are all also on ESPN Plus. Then you get to the playoffs. And if a game says it's on ESPN, it's not on ESPN Plus. What are we doing?
It doesn't.
I love ESPN Plus, but I also have cable, so like this isn't really a big issue for me. But the amount of streaming services that you need at this point, like even just trying to cover one team, it's unbelievable what you have to like invest in. We were talking about it. It's too much.
Well, like you're talking about trying to grow the game. If I'm ESPN and I have this incredible deal with the NHL to broadcast some of their games, and I'm entrusted to help them grow the game, don't I want to make it easy for people to find the game at its most crucial and best option, the playoffs?
It doesn't make.
If it's on my network, let me put it across all things that I slap my 4 letters on.
I think what does me in, and I know that like I only say this specific stuff because you guys have already made a ton of really good points, right? It's just small details too, to me.
Yep.
That really, I mean, listen, if you want to get mad and say this is petty, I won't disagree with you. But the Stanley Cup Playoff logo at the blue lines. You guys know what I'm talking about? Remember that?
Yes.
I don't know what the years on it were, but let's call it like 20 or is like 2010 to, whenever they signed the ESPN deal. It's small stuff like that adds, what's the word I'm looking for here? It adds gravity to the games, to the matchups. The audio mixing is so important because it gives you a better understanding of how loud it is in there. And I mean, no disrespect to Sean McDonough. He does a great job on a lot of broadcasts, but I can't get into him calling NHL playoff games. The point is, I'm sorry, go ahead, Chris.
Oh no, I was gonna say. I mean, I remember Sean McDonough from when he was broadcasting Red Sox games. So like with Jerry Remy. So like as a broadcaster, he is great. He does a great job. And none of them. I know a lot of people like to bitch and complain about specific broadcasters, but none of them do a terrible job. those become annoyances because of all those other little things, and they're, again, talking to the growing the game comment, the NHL is not going to lose me as a fan because I'm going to go find the stream somewhere else. If I can't find it on ESPN Plus, and I said, screw cable, I'm not paying for, $300 for cable plus $300 for all the other streaming services. I'm just going to go find the game where I know I can find it, and you won't get my rating count. That's a you problem. I don't care. I want to watch the game. But if you're trying to grow the game, wouldn't you want to make it so easy that someone who's flipping through the channels or who has no idea what to put on, and they're just kind of paused on the game on the guide and it kicks on in a preview, wouldn't you want them to just be able to click a button and go, that looks interesting. Let me see what that is. Let me watch that. Instead of sitting there going, log in with your cable provider so you can watch this highly anticipated event. Like, well, this doesn't make any sense.
Listen, to all of our points, and to Joey specifically about him talking about nitpicking stuff, growing the game is great for everybody, right? It grows the TV ratings. ESPN makes money. NHL makes money. The youth leagues make money. We make money as people who do media. If you get paid for any of the stuff that you do, the following goes up. The stuff that you write gets more views. It helps everybody out. And that's what pisses me off, is that it feels like ESPN is like doing the bare minimum to grow the game. And as somebody like who played hockey growing up, like seeing like that some organizations only have like one team per age group, it sucks. And like I said, I knew the product probably wasn't going to be the best when it came over to ESPN, but I had high hopes considering it's NHL and you're covering the playoffs. Maybe you'll put some money into it. But I look at this product now and I'm just like, man, we probably should have just tried to grow the game some way else and just kept this stuff on NBCSN.
Their broadcasts were, and don't get me wrong, okay? I'm not so brazen as to not understand how much of the heavy lifting Doc Emmerich was doing when it comes to the quality of an NBCSN broadcast. That man could make like paint drying in your backyard on a random spring day come to life, right? He did such a great job calling those games, and we all had our fun about Peter McGuire, but the NBCSN broadcasts in comparison were just it felt like they cared about hockey a little bit more. I don't know. I know that sounds mean-spirited. I'm sure these guys care about hockey a great deal, but it doesn't feel like the NBCSN ones. I'll tell you that for darn sure, man.
Yeah. Especially when it comes to the playoffs, like, a random, Friday night on NBC or something, or a Saturday night. All right, I'm not as worried about it. But like those games are easier to find than these playoff games. And I mean, there hasn't been a single game, even some of the higher scoring ones, where you sit there and you go, that was not a fun game to watch.
No, there really hasn't been a clunker yet. I mean, like, I guess if you want to count the St. Louis one, but like,
which one though?
Blowouts. The third one. Didn't they put up? Hold on. What was the final score? Or did somebody lie to me?
No, it was a lot too little. Also, the first game of the Toronto series when it was like 6-2 and Linus Ullmark could not make a save for his life. That was also not a great game. But other than that, like few and far between.
Well, it's the one series, right, where home team blowouts are still so much fun as long as you're not cheering for the away team. Like, I don't know how many like great example, just to juxtapose, right? Now, it's worth noting that I'm not as big of a basketball fan as other people, right? But when game one of OKC versus Memphis got going, right? We get every playoff. Yeah, exactly. They get every playoff game on Sportsnet here in Canada. We don't get that. We got to go ducking around looking for potential. Like I don't know where the broadcasts are going to be.
Therefore, I get every single playoff game for free when I rip it online and just go for it illegally. I can get every game that way if I really want to. Do they want the money or not? Because, I'd rather do it that way and say, here's all my money for ESPN. Honestly, the NHL Game Center was the absolute best. They had the product, and then they got rid of it.
It's classic
NHL.
Well, listen, and I'm not like, if it's good, like if it's easy and it's good and it's reliable, I'm fine with putting up the money. I mean, look at Flow Hockey. Flow Hockey, like the broadcasts aren't like the best, right? And you don't get the home and away most of the time, but everything is there. It is always reliable, and I don't have to like worry. Everything will always be there. Every single Providence Bruins game on Flow Hockey, I don't have to worry about flipping through ESPN, TBS,
blackouts,
whatever. There's no blackouts, and I can watch AHL, ECHL, USHL, college, anything that I want. Everything.
Now, how many times, Kenny, have you been watching and all of a sudden the little thing pops up and it goes, "Sorry, we're experiencing technical difficulties right now"?
It happens a few times.
Does it piss you off, though? Does it piss you off, or do you look at it and go, "Oh, man, that sucks"? Yeah. And then 10 minutes later, within 10 minutes, the game's back on and you're like, "Hey, all right, cool. I got my game back."
I've never had it go that long. And like I said, I post every Providence Bruins goal, and I've never had that issue where like the feed cuts out and then like I can't post the goal. So that's like, people can complain all the time. And I know that it's a huge complaint that they show the penalty box while the team's on the power play and you're missing like, 10 seconds of action. But we've also haven't missed a goal this season that way. So it's playing with fire, but we haven't really missed anything. So,
here's the other thing.
It's easy.
If more people invested in Flow Hockey, they would generate more revenue and they could produce a better product. That's kind of the whole way that it's supposed to friggin' work. Produce a decent product, people will invest in it, invest in your product to make it better, and you get more people to invest in it. Everybody wins.
I will tell people next season. I will tell people that I will push on people next season to buy the full year Flow Hockey up front. $30 a month is steep, but if you pay $150 a year, like, it's really not that bad. Especially if you're like, I know we have a ton of people that do, Boston stuff, and they want to see Providence, especially within the next few years. Buy it. It's so worth it. You get to see all the prospects, the amount of content that you can create out of just one $150 Flow Hockey package will surpass that $150 total easily.
Oh yeah, for sure. The ROI on that is incredible. And Joey, I don't know if do you have Flow Hockey or do you just go to the games a lot?
I do. Well, while you guys, I didn't want to interrupt you because I mean it's just a joke, really. But unlike you guys, when I see the technical difficulties, at least last year, interrupting the stream, I would be like, great, I don't have to watch the Bridgeport Islanders for a couple minutes. But I mean, like the amount of value that you get out of Flow, and if I'm not mistaken, don't you get access to the other sports, or is it just hockey?
You can get the entire Flow Sports package. I mean, Kenny and I specifically focus on Flow Hockey just because that's our area. But there are other sports available on there, from racing to
baseball,
baseball, football, stuff like that. I don't know exactly what they cover, so I don't want to dive too far into it. But there are other sports on there, absolutely.
Fellas, we have a winner in Vegas.
Yeah, we do.
Ivan Barbashev ties the series in a game that was the Minnesota Wild 3, the Vegas Golden Knights 3, and the officiating crew 1. Yeah, I'm still mad about it. I'm not letting that one go for a little while.
I wouldn't worry too much about it. I mean, again, how many people picked this series to be over in 4 or 5?
No, it's not that. Us. It's there's a lot of blue in Ottawa tonight. I'm just getting the Ottawa game on now, and it was the first thing I saw was the amount of blue in the lower bowl for the Canadian Tire Center?
Something like that. I think that's what it's called still.
I think you guys are also like in it. Sorry, Chris?
No. Go ahead. Oh, we have a goal in that game.
There we go. Stutzla. Ottawa's on the board.
Second shot of the game too.
Good.
I wonder
Dude,
if this is one where it makes it look like they figured out Stolarz. Like Toronto's just due for that kind of game where you look at it and you go, they figured him out.
Did you see the guy in the Matthews jersey giving double bird to Stützle as he celebrated?
Oh no, I didn't.
That's what I was laughing at. There was a guy when Stützle leaves the red circle to celebrate. There's some guy wearing an Austin Matthews jersey that is just absolutely giving him double finger.
Oh, he beat
it
him
is
glove too. That looked like
yeah.
a goal that would beat Connor Hellebuck.
I mean, if you go glove side on Hellebuck right now, I like your odds, frankly. But
Glove side and high. He's a sieve up high.
Yeah. Chris
Dude.
and I, we literally message each other every goal. Every goal, it seems like every goal that Hellebuck gives up, we're just texting each other. We're just like, yeah, that's, glove
High
side.
glove.
Or, yeah, over the glove.
If you notice, any of the low ones beat him coming around the post. His post work and the glove.
That was Dylan Cousins. Why'd they give the goal to Dylan Cousins? Did that get deflected? That can't be right.
They might have thought it was deflected. They always go in and change them. Kenny, I know you complain about that all the time.
Well, I complain about that like for the AHL because it takes days for them to like figure it out. Like if an assist gets wrongfully like credited, it takes a while for like them to change the assist. And then I'm over here, posting it. Like last night, I posted Letary goal in overtime, and it had Letary's goal unassisted for like 5 minutes because the refs didn't know who assisted on it. So then they had to go back and look at it, and then now I have to update this. Listen, I'm not going to complain. It's been a great few games because the views have been great and I've gained a ton of following. So I'm definitely not going to complain. But next season, I definitely want to, unfortunately, have to give Twitter some money so that I can edit my posts because I don't really like having to comment under it. And then it's like, the post gets 3,000 views, but then the comment gets like 200. And then, I just want to make sure everything's right. Like if I'm going to do this and, screen record and hurry up and get it out first, like I want it to be right at least.
Right.
It's a conversation me and Kenny have had.
Yeah.
Me and Kenny have had that conversation extensively. I one time I broke out the number for him. I did a break-even point on how many views you would need to get a week in order to have Twitter Premium pay for itself. It's a hefty number. It's like a couple million, if I'm not mistaken. Or
what did we say? A couple 100,000.
No, it would be a couple million because you can't even monetize. I'll pull it up right now for you. There's you can't even monetize unless you hit certain things on Twitter.
500 verified followers, like
500 premium followers. You have to be verified by being premium yourself, and you have to have at least 5 million impressions on your posts within a 3-month span.
Yeah, I don't have that kind of following. Not for the Bridgeport Islanders, I don't.
I was gonna say, do they have that kind of following without you?
No. That's a beauty. They're
beautiful shot.
And that's just to participate in their content creator program. Like if you want to have one of those ones where people can subscribe to you, then you also need to have 2,000 verified followers.
Yeah, I'm all right. Sounds like they want me to jump through a lot of hoops.
Yes, Bear Force. Connor Hellebuck is great in the regular season, but the scouting is just done so different, and it's ridiculous. He's not so much he has the glove in the up high. He has the issues up high and whatnot, but Stuart Skinner, if you get him on the posts, you're gonna cook him every time.
You know what Stuart Skinner's issue is?
Everything.
Tending the goal.
Well, think about it.
He's getting Calder votes.
He's got no. He's got a bad glove side, and if you can get him moving side to side, then you can beat him. If you pepper him with shots, then you can beat him frequently. Like I'm still baffled by the fact that Edmonton really looked at yet another year and went, nah, we're good in goal.
By the way, the first thing that comes up when you look up Stuart Skinner's name is a Reddit argument of how bad is Stuart Skinner?
There's
Like,
only one answer to that. That's correct.
it's pretty bad.
Really bad.
It's not good. I don't know of many nice ways to say it. The whole Hellebuck conversation, though. If you guys remember remember in 21 before we played you guys. We played Pittsburgh the year before. Oh, by the way, Stuart Skinner did get Calder votes. He finished second in the Calder in 22-23.
Who beat him? 22-23 would have been.
It's not McDavid. Why did I almost say McDavid? It would have been Matty Beniers.
Ew. That's why, because
Yeah.
even Beniers had a bad rookie season. The rookie class that year was trash.
Hio Joseph finished 13th. He got one vote.
Yeah.
One. But anyway, like it's really scary when you have a goaltender like Hellebuck, or in our case, it was like Jari, where so early in the series it gets figured out what the broadside hole in the boat is. Like, I don't know, like, geez, Pacioretty just all marks down. He'll be all right. But yeah,
I don't know.
like,
We've already seen goaltenders go down, so I really wouldn't be surprised if another goaltender got hurt. Not necessarily in this game, but in general.
Anyway, the point I was trying to make is that if, like, I don't know how Hellebuck has to make an adjustment really soon on that glove side stuff, or it's gonna bite you in the worst possible moments. Because, I mean, I'm not the best goaltender in the world, so I don't know exactly what puck should be saved and what shouldn't be saved. But some of these goals that are going in on Hellebuck right now, I'm like,
Yeah,
that probably should get stopped.
Looks like Omar's staying in, but we'll have to see if that affects him. So I'm.
That's your.
Yep.
I was just gonna describe it. Pacioretty just. I didn't see what defenseman it was for Ottawa, but he just rode that defenseman straight into Allmark, and he got bonked on the head.
I'd be interested to see a backup matchup in the next Washington game. It would be Dobish and why am I blanking on Thompson's back? Oh, Charlie Lindgren.
We got those in 2020 a lot. Remember that? In the bubble? Because they were playing some back-to-backs.
We got Randy in here, who's a Habs fan, wanting to know which teams we represent. So, Randy, this show is actually about all hockey stuff. Right now, we're just watching along with the games that are on, but Kenny and I tend to follow and favor the Bruins and their whole entire organization. And Joey, you just can't stand Bridgeport.
Well, yeah, I'm an Islander fan.
You like getting tortured by Bridgeport.
I am a masochist, I suppose. Ooh. Oh, come on.
Okay, so just like the Binnington save, that puck is very much in the net. Now you have to prove it.
Here we go. Before we prove it.
And yes, Charlie Lindgren is a former Habs goaltender. I think Dobish has the upper hand in that matchup, though. I would favor Dobish in that one. I just think between him and Lindgren, he's got the advantage, and he's got way less pressure. Because if Montreal loses with Dobish in net, everyone's going to kind of go, they had a backup goalie in. What did you expect? If Washington loses with Lindgren in net, they're going to be like, they were so much better. So, that didn't even go in, did it?
Yeah, no, but I'm going to say this. Never mind. The next replay confirmed it, but I was going to ask if Jake McCabe closed his hand on the glove on the puck there. I thought he did for a second, but I am wrong.
Looks like Ridley Gregg is back.
And yep.
Oh, are they? They're reviewing it.
Somebody got a penalty. Perron gets a penalty. How? Okay, I'm trying to hold my fire here, but how do the Ottawa Senators get the only penalty out of that?
Well, right now it's under review, so they can really pretty much change anything if this is initiated from the league. Perron gets up, and that's why, because he friggin' throttles them.
Now what?
That's a roughing. That is a roughing penalty. That is a very deserved. Nobody was going to walk away with any penalties until Perron did that.
Definitely did not go in Bear Force 1.
Still think Caps win that series. Overall I agree. I just think that the Canadians would be able to play a lot more relaxed than Washington, and that I could actually see working in their favor to have the comeback. If both teams have to go to their backup goaltender, that's the key part there. Have you Bruins fans been to the Bell Center? If you have, it's rocking like crazy on the Richter scale. The audio for the Montreal games have been fine, so I can hear that. I've seen enough games to know how much that building rocks, and it's a great environment. I have not been there personally, but I would love to do that. Randy would need someone who does not mind sitting next to me with a Bruins shirt on. So we'll have to be careful on that.
Here we go.
Kenny, you ever been to any of the other arenas?
I've been to other arenas. I've been to UBS. I have been to MSG, not for an NHL game. Been to TD Garden, and then I've been to a few AHL arenas. When you play hockey, it's tough to get out to games when you have 3 practices and 2 games a week. But ever since I stopped playing, I've been trying to go to as many games as possible. But listen, I've never been to Montreal, but I've seen Providence play Laval, and those games get packed with Canadians and Laval Rocket fans. So it does not shock me one bit. Obviously, we also have been watching the Bruins take on the Canadians in basically rivalry matches every single time. So the building's always bumping at the Bell Center. So yeah you can always hear it.
Randy says Habs can compete with anyone. And Randy, this year they will. They are. And they're just going to keep getting better. Although I do have to ask you this, Randy. What the hell is up with Patrick Laine? Dude has been invisible. Like, he hasn't done anything. We Habs fans don't mind other teams. We don't start fights like some NFL stadiums. I think he's looking at you, Buffalo.
I have a story that would actually say the opposite of what Mr. Randy N there has to say.
I will say
my brother's bachelor party 10 years ago.
Oh boy, I will say this though. To Randy's point, 9 times out of 10, it's a two-way street where 2 people have to be willing combatants. So if you only have one willing combatant, most of the time you don't have issues on away games in most stadiums. It's when you have 2 people who want to have that little FU battle and, want to try and show off where you get your viral favorite moments.
Yeah,
or if you're a woman in Edmonton who wants to just show off things.
Yeah, potentially.
Well, there's also, the drinks are flowing. I was sitting at TD Garden with my friend who is a Heat fan during the playoffs, and he got like beer thrown on him.
Was it thrown on him, or was it like accidentally spilled on him?
No, it was thrown from we were sitting at the upper part, so the guy threw it. And it hit him in the back or whatever. It just completely ruined his pink Heat jersey. Well, listen,
now
I'm a Celtics fan. So
here's the question: was it chucked specifically at him, or was this you made a horrible call? I want to try and get my cup of beer on the court, and I just have no arm, and it's a very lightweight cup, and I happen to hit your friend there.
Are you a lawyer?
No, I'm just asking what's the context. Because this guy's, like I said,
you sound like a lawyer.
I'm just talking about if it's a willing combatant, if he's targeting him and he's like, fuck you, and he throws it in his face, that's different than I'm throwing it on the court and it happens to hit you because I can't throw more than 3 feet.
No, it was the weirdest thing. It was the fourth quarter and the Celtics were winning at the time. And he just got a beer thrown on him, and then my friend turned around and wanted to start shit, but he's also fucking 17, so what is he gonna do? Nothing. It was just I'm fine with it. I'm fine with it because he's a Heat fan and not a great person, but whatever. But
Dude,
yeah.
my my brother's bachelor party in Montreal. It was an Islander game. Yeah. Read this one first because this is great. I read
Well,
this just now.
Randy said only one Quebec Nordique fan decided to come to the Habs Stanley Cup parade once. He was shown on TV, then cut off. TV didn't show the beating he got. Oh boy. Oh
But
boy.
yeah, we went to an Islanders Habs game. My whole family was Islander fans, and I mean, it's a bachelor party, so as Kenny and you just said, the alcohol is flowing. Islanders pulled a win out somehow, and some French Canadian guy, as we were leaving the Bell Center, uttered three words that are still the name of the family group chat, which was fuck the Islanders, and then he pushed my brother in the chest, and we were all just kind of like. No, you mentioned the willing combatant thing, right? Like he did not have a willing combatant. We didn't care at that point. We left with the win. I mean, it happens at every stadium though. I mean, like I have a unique perspective on the whole thing with having Yankees and Mets fans in my family.
Oh boy.
So going to same brother that got into the fight with that Montreal fan, actually. Leaving Yankee Stadium after a Mets win was doing the Jose Reyes chant, and two Yankee fans turned around, and magic
Yeah,
happened.
your brother probably should zip it
It
up a little
follows him
bit.
around. It follows him around. Let me tell
I
you.
don't know. I mean, there's one common denominator and all that, and it ain't the building.
That's what I'm thinking.
Well, you know what my dad said my dad said when we got back to the car. You know what he said to him? He didn't stick up for him. He said maybe dial down on the douche factor a little bit.
Yeah. Well,
Oh.
I went to Philly once, and I'm a Mets fan.
Oh no.
So we went to Philly, and then I was with my aunt, and she was going around telling people that we were Mets fans. I was like, what are you doing? Are you trying to get us killed?
No.
So this was right after the Mets came back, that crazy game where they came back from 7 down and they ended up beating the Phillies. This was the next night, and we were I decided not to wear any Mets stuff. I was just, and it wasn't even I did not wear any Mets stuff there, and she didn't either. It was just hot, so I don't know. But she was walking around. She's like, "Oh yeah, we're Mets fans." I was like, "Yo, shut up! You're trying to get us freaking killed out here."
That's the one. That's one of maybe 2 or 3 American cities where. You could go ahead and let this one fly.
I was going to say, with Randy's comment, he says, I agree some Canadian fans are obnoxious. Most of us have hockey sense, not brutality when our team loses. I will say, Randy, as a Montreal fan, guys have kind of gotten used to losing lately. So, it's great to see you guys back in the playoffs. But for quite a while, you guys have been on that losing side. So you had to get used to it. And then Bear Force, imagine wearing a Bruins jersey at Game 7 in 2011. They burned their own city down. Bear Force, I got to ask, have you seen the documentary on that? Any of you?
The doc.
Yes, I have.
That doc is crazy.
But it's, I remember when it happened though. You guys both would have been much younger when that happened. I remember when it happened live.
8. Oh my God.
Don't even remind me. I got to point out real quick, too, because I threw on a second game now that the other playoff game was over. The Toronto Marlies and Cleveland Monsters are in double overtime.
Yeah.
Double overtime. And they're already past the 10-minute mark. And Matt Murray has 43 saves for Toronto.
That North is going to be difficult to get out of, especially with Laval as well. There's no easy team in that division. And Syracuse, and they have Rochester, and then these two teams, there really is no win.
Oh, yeah, the best brawls between Bruins and Habs back in the day. That's where the old saying came from of I went to a fight and a hockey game broke out. That's where that all started. But he was also commenting about Laine has a great shot, has been defense was never there for Laine, so I wouldn't even call it invisible. It was always non-existent. My question to you, Randy, is he's got one more year left on his contract. Do you want Patrick Laine back in 2 years when this contract is up?
Dude, can I just say, I don't know if Joey's on hockey YouTube or whatever, but I just remember in 2016 when the Jets drafted Line A. Jesse Pollock like went on this tour of just like Line A is better than Austin Matthews, and like
Oh yeah.
I just
Yeah,
want to ask him like what now? Like you lose
feeling real
all your
good.
credibility at this point if you're saying that.
That feels real good late at night, huh, Jesse? Oh man, I mean, how much money, how much time, how much effort? Was it worth it?
Yeah.
He
That guy
probably
would travel to Toronto and hold up a sign that just says Line A's better.
Yeah, it just no, it's ridiculous. And Randy adds those people who started the riots were not hockey fans. He's absolutely right. There was just a bunch of people who went down to be shit stirrers. So, Randy, if you haven't seen the documentary, they do a great job with it, and kind of bringing you back to all that, and really emphasize, like you said, they weren't hockey fans for the most part who were causing that, but they caused a big freaking problem. And
that guy.
yeah, the documentary was done very well.
His offense is great, but rather build with your up and coming stars. I could get behind that. I mean, I would also say that Line A, like, he's not like the worst. Like, he's still a pretty productive offensive player. I probably wouldn't renew his contract, but while you're getting some of these guys ready and getting them up and into the roles that they're supposed to be in, Line A is a great stopgap option. I mean, like, that guy played for Columbus. That guy was a star in Winnipeg. I mean, he's got a lot of
So
NHL experience now.
so he's 9 years into the league. He's been on 3 teams. He's only been on Montreal for one. He spent 4 years in Columbus, 5 years in Winnipeg. Basically, blew himself out the door on both of those occasions. Not to the extent of PLD. Don't get me wrong, but he
He's the king
wanted
of that.
out, and he made it known he wanted out. You're playing him 14 minutes a night right now in Montreal. 14 minutes. This is a guy who's played 20 minutes a night almost when he was with Winnipeg. This is a guy who's scored 30, 40 goals a year, and now he's a 20-goal scorer. So here's my question. Who the hell's trading for him? Even as a rental, who the hell is going to trade for him?
Can't say Lou Lamoriello anymore. Oh, and the Leafs cut the lead in half.
Well,
And Snake Boy got it.
speaking of which, is Chris and Rick fired yet, or what's going on here?
They're just. What do you mean? Okay, I just got to get this off my chest, and then I'll answer your question. They ripped your C off, Johnny. Where'd that go? Somebody in the building is with a "We Believe" sign for the Leafs. Believe you guys are what, like, minus 300 point favorites in this series? Like, why are you like adopting like the underdog mentality? Like, you guys aren't up 3-0 and we're heavily favored to win this one. But
Because
with
they're
respect to
Toronto.
yeah, and they're the victim in everyone's eyes. But the Chris and Rick situation, I think they're actually handling it correctly. With respect to not firing them yet. It's the same reason why we haven't seen a decision on the termination of Patrick Waugh. And it's because we want to let the next GM, whoever it may be, come in and make as many decisions as they can to build their organization. Right? You don't want to shack. Randy, do you have an hour? Because we could. Do you have a couple hours? But I'll answer that very quickly in a second. You want to let the general manager come in and make as many decisions as he can. You don't want to shackle them with anything. You want to give them a blank canvas. And that's why they're leaving Waugh alone. Now, do not get anything twisted. Okay, the first day that we have a new general manager of the New York Islanders, Chris Lamoriello and Rick Kowalski are going to be hashtag open to work, baby. They're done, but they're not making any decisions yet. As we've got a fight going on between Simon Benoit and is that Dylan Cousins? That is Dylan Cousins.
I like Patrick Waugh as a coach. I just don't think he ever fit this team. It never made sense to me.
It's such a bad hire by Lou. Like, not in the sense that it's like, when I say bad hire, I don't mean he's not qualified. Of course he's qualified. But when you're trying to build a culture, you want to get everybody moving the same way. And listen, whether or not Trotz wanted to leave or if you fired him in a power struggle, whatever, he's out. But his imprints on the team were thick. He had a lot of influence on that roster. He had a lot of influence on the way they played. They needed to bring somebody in who was going to be similar to that, right? Or was at least going to be willing to adapt to that style of play. Instead, they go with the most headstrong, offense based junior coach that did not care who Lou Lamoriello was. It was his way or the highway, regardless of who the general manager was. And everybody knew that at the time because it happened in Colorado.
Yeah. Kenny,
Is how do you,
if they fire Patrick Wall, you think Boston gets in on him?
No, I don't.
personally, no, Randy, I don't like him.
But I want to talk about Joey's thing for a little bit. The problem with the Islanders, I'm always so in
Slow.
favor of having a good support system, having a place where your prospects can actually develop. And it's actually gotten so bad to the point where I said, where I've actually brought up this question and asked other Islanders fans, like, at what point do you just start loaning your players to other organizations that'll take them in the AHL? Because Bridgeport has been such a problem for so long at just developing guys as well. It's such a struggle, honestly, and it's just horrible. So, that's where you need to start. Because, listen, nowadays, the Islanders are just not a destination where players are going to be, chomping at the bit to go. So, you got to be able to, develop these young guys. You have to be able to hit on some second and third round picks that need some time to develop. So I'm just like where do you go from here? You have to start at the AHL level because this team has been awful forever.
Yeah.
I would say just to give Randy a more thorough question or answer to the Wah question, and then
This
I'll dive
one,
into what you had to
whether or
say,
not
Kenny.
you like the
Yeah.
coach.
Frankly, now Patrick Waugh the human is somebody who I absolutely adore. I think Patrick Waugh is an amazing human. He's fascinating, right? But as a head coach, he was brought in because we didn't score enough. We had a huge penchant for blowing leads, and the special teams was nowhere as good as it needed to be. We are now over 100 something games into the Patrick Waugh experience. We still can't score worth a damn. We have actually gotten worse on special teams, and we still blow leads like crazy. We do it a little bit less than we did under Lane Lambert, and the Sorokin regression has continued. So, yeah, sure, you could say that Patrick Waugh isn't a part of the problem, but he's certainly not a part of the solution.
Yeah.
And I mean, with Bridgeport, it's not good when I feel sorry for you for having to play professional hockey. Like it's a kid's game, you know? Like some of us shouldn't say some of us, right? I'm a college student, but there are people out there that work real difficult jobs, working in the factories and working with waste management and stuff like that, and they don't see a fraction of the money that these pro hockey players see. Like, it's always a gift to be playing hockey professionally, unless you're playing for the Bridgeport Islanders. Then it's a burden. That's how
Then
bad
it's
it
a
is.
job.
Like, yeah, then it's just a job. Like, dude, why would any 21 Kenny, you know the Jordan because you sent it to me like twice a week, right? Like, you know the Jordan Schmaltz quote about playing in Bridgeport.
Whoop. I swear I did not kick him. Let me see if I can get him back in here. Did we
That
lose
was Lou
you?
Lamoriello. That was Lou Lamoriello. He came in, investigated as a murder. I'm telling you, if I go, I'm in my right mind. All right, I didn't do it, but I digress. Like,
listen, if Lou Lamoriello is watching this stream right now, I will take it.
I agree. But the point I was making about Bridgeport, Kenny sends me the Jordan Schmaltz quote about how scary it is being in Bridgeport, playing for Bridgeport. It's not the best city on planet Earth. You're not exactly playing in front of a ton of fans. You're not playing in an ideal destination, though. Who is in the minor leagues? But adding all of that into losing upon losing upon losing, it's like the scenario from Space Jam that Michael Jordan wagered with the alien. I got to get my Space Jam details correct. Remember everybody knows what I'm talking about, right? With Space Jam, where he has to play the game against the Monstars, and if he loses, right, he has to forever play basketball game against kids in the carnival where he is forced to lose.
Something like that.
The Bridgeport Islanders are the version of Space Jam where Michael Jordan lost to the Monstars. You just have to go out there every day miserable, knowing you're going to lose.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, Bear Force says that Moncton, even the Wildcats fans, hated Patrick Waugh when he was the coach of the Remparts.
Could you go into that a little bit more? Because I'd be really curious as to why they would hate Patrick Waugh. I mean, didn't they have a ton of success?
I think it was to your comment though about how he wants all that control as a coach, and especially when you get to a minor league level like that, that it's not part of your job, or any parts of that become part of your job, you can be a real dickbag about. So there's probably some arrogance in there. And then Randy was also asking how the hell we don't ask for Don Sweeney to be fired for trading Brad Marchand, which Bear Force did a good job of answering with Marchand's time had come and gone for Boston. Love the guy for what he did, but time to move on. But I will say, I do want to say, Randy, Kenny can attest to this. There is a large swath of Bruins fans who are calling for his head, and not just because of that trade. So we know that we're going into the last year of his current contract. So we'll have to see where it all goes.
Well, I also want to talk about that Jordan Schmaltz quote for a second. I asked him that, and Joey summed it up. And can I just say, like, Jordan Schmaltz played 6 games with Bridgeport, 6, and that's all he had to say about Bridgeport. And he
called it a hellhole.
6 games. I can count on my fingers. He played 6.
I was to say, dude didn't even make it to 2 hands worth of fingers.
And that's what he has to say about the organization. So take that as you will. But yeah, I mean, go on Bruins Twitter. Just search up Bruins. The first thing you'll see is Don Sweeney.
Hashtag NHL Bruins, and you'll find it.
Yeah, you'll see everybody who's calling for his head. And I understand where those people are coming from, but that's not my opinion on it. I gotta keep that quiet. I gotta keep that quiet, or people start rioting at my house.
What, for Sweeney?
For saying that, no, yeah, I want Sweeney to, try to get the Bruins out of this hole. Oh,
well, here's the thing. Like, you can't fire him right now. One, you just can't fire him right now for a number of logistical reasons. And 2, he doesn't deserve to be fired right now. Let's see what he does in the offseason. Let's see how he prepares the team going into next season. And his next checkpoint is, where are you at during the Christmas break? Where are you at that point? If you are competing closer for last place than you are for a playoff spot, well, now you reevaluate and potentially let him go. If you're competitive, and even if you're not in a wild card spot or close to one, if you're competitive and you have a much better team on the ice because he has fixed things, for lack of better phrasing, well, then why would you fire him at that point?
Well, also, when you look at the media day or whatever, the press conference, that was awesome. That was a great press conference. The media did a great job. And honestly, like, people made it out like this was some bad thing. But I did hear some things that I liked. And I liked that Charlie Jacobs was like, yeah, well, listen, we always expect to make the playoffs. But if that's not in the cards next season, then it's not in the cards. Like, if they say we have to be patient, then we'll be patient. And that's what I like to hear. I like to hear that we're not going to try to force going into the playoffs just so, we can say that we made the playoffs. So that's great. I liked hearing that. And I like that there's some flexibility. Like, next year, we don't have to keep Don Sweeney around if this turns into a complete shit show. So why not give him that extra year? And honestly, I'm a big fan of Don Sweeney. It's Cam Neely that I'm kind of like, I have a problem with. I think Cam Neely is still trying to make this a big bad Bruins show, and Don Sweeney's trying to adapt to the younger, faster game, and that's what I saw. So
Yeah, and there was one other point that Don made when they were talking about the head coaching search, where his comment basically was that he's going to find someone who comes into work for the Bruins, that they're not working for Don Sweeney, they're working for the Bruins. So that tells me that as an organization, they're going to look at a head coach who can possibly post-exist Don Sweeney if he doesn't get a new contract. So
Well,
they're not going to change like if they decide not to renew Don Sweeney's contract, I believe their next GM would be Evan Gold.
I'm fine. I'm fine with that. I like Evan Gold.
But what
I-
if, Kenny? But what if?
They got to be careful because your Islanders over there may try to make a move for Evan Gold.
But what if you guys actually go a third route? All right.
and sign Chris Lamoriello.
I was gonna say Lou.
Oh.
See, well, here's my question: what is the role in which you're bringing him in for? Because if you're bringing him in the same way you would bring Zdeno Chara in and you just call it an advisor role, fine, I'm down for that. I'm not bringing him in to be my team's president. I'm not bringing him in to be the general manager. But if you want to have him in the room, in the boardroom where you're having those discussions with your general manager, your team president, and your scouts and all that stuff, I'm totally fine with him being in the mix in that way.
Yeah,
I'm
sure
implying
every
that
team
you're
would
bringing
be,
him.
but
Sorry, Kenny.
if I'm Lou, I'm like, hell no. I'm going to get a GM job.
I'm implying to bring him in to lock your entire middle six and bottom four defensive core into 7x7s with no trade clauses.
Oh, we already had someone who did that. His name was Peter Chiarelli.
Peter Chiarelli has done more for the New York Islanders' success than any general manager the New York Islanders have ever had.
Oh, and I did think it. Sorry, go ahead. Finish up.
He traded Strome for Eberle, right? That was a good one. And then that's not even the worst one he made because the year before he traded Griffin Reinhart for Barzal and what wound up being Beauvillier.
Yeah, let's see.
But-
Bear Force. I'm trying to pull up the comment. I think Mike Fata, the assistant GM in Florida, would be a good choice for GM. There's a few out there who would make good GMs. Again, I like Kenny's point. I think you're absolutely right. Where Don Sweeney is trying to be more adaptive, and Cam Neely, who is just enough involved, can hold the reins back a little bit, or basically force his hand on certain things. Now, I think they can balance each other out if they do it right. You know, a move like David Backes just screamed Cam Neely.
David Backes.
Just I like the direction that the team went at the end of the season. Obviously, it's not going to be like that all season because they were meaningless games. But I liked that guys that earned opportunities at some point in Providence got the opportunity to step up and play a game. Hopefully, I was hoping for more than just one for guys like Duran and Farinacci and Brunet. But at this point, I'll just take what I can get because it was few and far between. I hope Merkulov stays around because I would like to see him get some NHL minutes. I hope he can make it work. But like I said, I've been saying that all season, and people have come to me and said the same dumb thing. Honestly, it's like, well, they got to earn it game by game. But your definition of earning it is my problem. You can't expect guys who've been playing in the AHL for 3 seasons to come up and score 4 points in 2 games. It's just not going to happen. And then you look at a guy like Lysell, who just gets better game by game and looks more comfortable game by game. And then everybody's like, oh, yeah, well, but that's what I'm saying. Like, you have to give guys time to acclimate. You have to give guys time to, figure it out. And the NHL is like a new beast. Like, you have to give time to adjust. And I don't think really any player has had that who's been stuck in Providence. So.
Yeah.
Air Force, because you were the best team in the history of the National Hockey League 2 years ago.
Man, I want some gone. I don't think that's why. I think there's a long track record of success. I know, Joey, you said that you have to head out shortly. Did you have any final thoughts? Any last things you wanted to get to? Bear Force, we got plenty of beast stuff to talk about because we got 2 more periods of this game alone. But before we have Joey head out, because I know he's got some stuff to go do.
Always fun coming to these. I always love talking hockey. I mean, it's a pleasure being here, guys. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for jumping on. We'll
Of
we'll
course.
we'll have you on a lot more too. So go take care of the stuff you got to take care of. If you got a few more minutes to hang out, but I think you said that you had pretty close to a
Yes,
hard out
sir.
around now. So
Godspeed, gentlemen. I guess go Sens. All right.
all righty, take care.
See ya.
So tomorrow I'm actually doing a What's Brewing show, and I'll be joined by someone new on the show. Well, she's not new to the show, but she's new to joining a little more frequently. Gail will be jumping on again tomorrow with me, so we'll be talking a lot more about that press conference and just rounding things out. But I wanted to dive in on your point a little more about the Neely versus Sweeney conversation, because if you really look at certain decisions, right? And Cam Neely made it clear. He kind of laid out a little more of a picture from how things were with 2015. You know, he made the comments about how they were backstage, and they really went with what the director of scouting, Keith Gretzky, said they should do for picks. In retrospect, as he said, they should have gone back to the table and regroup. Fine, not rehashing the 2015 draft. But what that does tell me is they've reassessed how they do things, and a lot more of the draft pick decision falls on Don Sweeney now than it used to in the past. So looking at the last 10 years of drafting, you have to look at it all as an ebb and flow situation. But if we can say over the last 4 years, Don Sweeney's the one making the picks, not Cam Neely. Look at the players that he's picked, early or late. Fabian Lysell, high upside, top 6 potential. Brett Harrison, offensive upside, hell of a shot. Oscar Yelvik, Andre Gasso, offensive guys. Could they fall to a middle to a bottom 6 role? They absolutely can. That's where another guy like Riley Duran, that's where he might fit in. Guys like that, but Cole Spicer, high level talent. Don Zlotch-Mellis, offensive. Now, are all of them going to be top 6 forwards? No, not all of them. But you're drafting guys who have that potential. Those are Don Sweeney decisions, not Cam Neely decisions.
Well, you also look at it, and everybody you just named high potential, and only one was a first round pick, and it was a late first round pick. So people got to realize, like, even though you have a first round pick, like the later ones aren't guaranteed. Like none of them are.
They have more developing to do.
Exactly. It's just people want it like now. People want to see the return on investment. The same thing with Dean Letourneau. Like people getting all upset about it. Like Dean Letourneau played 4th line minutes, played less than 11 minutes most nights, and I'm not even gonna get into that. But
I've been doing some digging on some draft statistics for a certain period. I'm going to come back to that because I wanted to further emphasize my point when it comes to Don Sweeney decisions. When he identifies a need, he goes out and gets it, and he gets things taken care of. So, for instance, he bolstered the I think it was the 16-17 team by getting a puck-moving-ish defenseman with John Michael Lyles. Didn't give up a whole heck of a lot to do it. Gave up a 6th round pick in to get Drew Stafford. They weren't awesome additions, but they also didn't cost you a lot. A 3rd, a 5th, a 6th in 3 different years, by the way, and a prospect who ultimately amounted to be nothing. Fast forward, you went out and got what you needed in 2018. You got Rick Nash. You needed to get rid of the Bolesky contract, and you needed to bring in a player like Rick Nash. Spooner, Bolesky, Lindgren, a 1st and a 7th, all for the player that you needed. You accomplished multiple things in that deal. Like that was a home run deal. Unfortunately, Nash got the concussions and didn't stick around. Then look at 2019. He trades out Ryan Donato in a 5th, brings in Charlie Coyle, who fits in like a glove. Perfect player for what you needed. and you had him for a long time. You know, like these are moves where you look at it and go, what do we need? I'm going to get it. Taylor Hall deal. He brought in Curtis Lazar as part of that. He identified Curtis Lazar and said, I want Hall and Lazar. Let's work around this. And that's the deal that happened. He brought in Hampus Lindholm. Like, has every decision been perfect? No. But Cam Neely's not involved in this is the player I'm targeting in this draft, in this trade. You know, and then look at the guys that he targeted this year. Yoki Haru, decent defenseman with decent upside. Husnudinov, speed. Lauko, speed. Zellers, high-end talent and speed. Middlestead, puck mover, high-end talent. Did those moves sound like Don Sweeney guys or Cam Neely guys?
Yeah, Don Sweeney guys. And I'll add, like, did we lose any trade? I don't think so. We sure won a ton of trades. I don't.
The only one that you could say we lost is the Brad Marchand trade.
But when you look into it deeper and you see, like, and you hear about, like, the contract that he wanted, and, you know, the Bruins basically gave them the best number, and now the Bruins could get a first-round pick out of it. You know, it might be a late first-round pick, but when you look at it, it really isn't as bad. And I understand people are frustrated and upset that Brad Marchand left, but at the end of the day, like, you got to get over it. You got to look at what's best for the team going forward. And I think getting rid of Brad Marchand, and somebody said it, like, I was doing a live stream on trade deadline day, and somebody was like, yeah, this is the last guy that was around from that 2011 team. Mm-hmm. And everybody was like, oh, that sucks. And I'm like, no, that's good. This is a good thing that they're finally moving on from this thing that happened over 15 years ago that has nothing to do with what's going on right now. They needed a new voice, a new presence or whatever, and they end up getting a first round pick out of it. And like you
even
said,
if all you got is the second rounder, though, if they make it to if they don't make it to the first round and you only or past the first round and you only get a second round pick out of it, that means if based on how much he played, they got what, less than 20 games of Brad Marchand?
Yeah.
And you got a second round pick.
Well, also what you said about accommodating a player in what gets Don Sweeney liked league round. So
respected,
he accommodated Marchand, and now players are going to be more willing to come to Boston if that's even possible. I mean, I know a ton of people, talk about.
Well, they're an original six franchise with 100 years of esteemed history. Yeah. So who wouldn't want to come to Boston?
Well, I could definitely see like maybe somebody who doesn't want to pay taxes, but like I said, it's always a good thing to have people respect you league wide. It's not a bad thing. So.
Yeah, and Bearforce says, I'll give Sweeney credit. He did great at the trade deadline. Absolutely. And that's why I'm saying he's earned the right to try to restock and build the new team, because that's ultimately what he's doing. And by the way, he was good enough to get the players in place that are in place. Hampus Lindholm, Elias Lindholm, which now that we know how hurt he was, I think we look at his season a lot differently, especially with how it ended playing next to Pasternak and Geeky. Was it perfect? No, but I have a lot more confidence in him having a bounce back season next year. Swayman under long-term contract, Pasternak under long-term contract, McAvoy under long-term contract. Those contracts are only going to get better and better and better as the cap continues to rise.
Yeah, and again, like if you're just a fan, like I could understand why you would be upset with the trade deadline, like because you probably don't know what we got in return. You have no idea who Will Zellers is. You have no idea who Fraser Minton is. You just have no idea who these people are. So when you're seeing, a guy like Brandon Carlo getting traded for a random in a first-round pick, you're like, oh, what the hell? But when you look at it, it really is a good thing. Fraser Minton is going to be on the NHL roster next year, even if he doesn't start there. And he's good defensively, and he can figure out his offensive game on the job, because that's how it works. If you're good defensively, if you're not going to be a liability out there, you could learn on the job. So it was only good things. Yeah,
and one other thing I took away from the press conferences is they're not going to be shy in free agency. I'm out on Marner, but I still think they make a play. You're crazy not to call his agent, not to make him an offer. But if you you can always do what you did when it was John Tavares and you knew he was just grandstanding with you and go, yeah, our offer would be $9 million. He's not going to take it, but you're in the realm of a negotiationable number where you say, well, we're at 9, he's at 14. Let's look somewhere in the middle. You're not laughed out of the room at that point, kind of. But you also know you're not actually in the room to be in the room. You're in the room so that he can talk to somebody else. And so that's kind of where you're just like, no. I would much rather see them go after a guy like Matthew Nyes if I'm going to try and target someone. But I just, Matthew Nyes and Morgan Geekie are far too similar. You already know Morgan Geekie works. Just hang on to him. Pay him instead of trying to chase Nyes.
Yeah, and honestly, there's a few holes that I'd like to fill in the lineup, obviously, but I also want to give room for players to get called up and play minutes and start to, figure out what we have in Providence. Even if it's a guy like Brett Harrison who hasn't necessarily earned it. At some point, the earning thing makes sense in theory, but the way that the Bruins have operated the last few years of even a guy who leads the team 3 years straight in scoring, it only gets 6 games in a season. At some point, you just need to bite the bullet. And even though they might not be playing the best in Providence, you got to call them up just to see what they can do. So, yeah, of course, you always want a player to earn it and feel like, once they, if they play well enough, that they'll get rewarded. Obviously, that's a great system to have in place, but that's not the system that they've had in place. So it's time now to figure out what you have.
The counter that I would have to that, though, is if you're legitimately competing up at the NHL level, you don't really have the roster room, the wiggle room to bring in that chance for error. So until you are better than everyone on the roster, 100% better, definitively the better option, your best chance to continue to develop your game is going to be in Providence. Now, that's not the situation that the team is in right now, today. So you have to take a little bit of a different approach. And we did see that towards the end. That's why Riley Durant got his call up. That's why I'm blanking on some of the other people off the top of my head who got called up. But Minton was on the team at the end of the year. Lysell stayed called up. Who that's why you brought in a guy like Hustendinov. You're just throwing everything at the wall to see what you can look at and go, that might stick. Let's see. Got to find my cursor. And I just pulled up my draft info, so I'll go over that in a minute with you. There's some interesting numbers in there, but let's see. Hey, guys, just tuned in, so bear with me. I already addressed it. Probably not. The lower tiers see a plethora of 5K, Middlestad 4K, Zaka. I think it means I don't know. Need to aim high in free agency. They have to be expendables. I think right now the only guys that you're looking at this offseason as far as quote unquote untradeable, because everybody's tradable, but the guys that you're not calling around on or taking any serious conversation, the guys are Pasta, McAvoy, and Swayman. That being said, if someone calls up and they say they're willing to have a legitimate trade conversation, you have to entertain it. But
yeah,
again, for each one of those guys, that serious conversation is going to look considerably different. Like Pastrnak, you're not dealing them unless you're getting, I don't even want to say Draisaitl or McDavid. There's no realistic team that will call you and say, we want David Pastrnak and we're willing to give you out the nose. Who's the blue chip prospect? You'd be looking at wanting, Isaac Howard, Jimmy Snuggerud, who's the other one that just came out of college too? You'd be looking at Ryan Leonard. You'd be looking at wanting 4 or 5 of those guys for David Pastrnak, and not one team has 4 or 5 of those kinds of players.
Yeah, I'm honestly I'm so excited for the draft. I've been able to kind of hone in a little bit more on the players who are going to be selected. And there are some good players. There's none that are going to be generational out the gate, but there is going to be some great players available at all rounds this year, I think.
Yeah, I think Denoyer is their guy in the top 7.
I can see it. It's still like we talk about it all the time, but it really does matter like where they're going to pick. So
I know. I think that's the guy they're looking at going, based on odds, he's the one that we want to get as long as he's available where we pick. He might not be there at 5, 6, or 7, but if if we get 3, 4, or 5 and Denoyer is still on the board, he's our guy. That's how I think they're looking at it.
I'm also watching Frondell right now, so that's they're going to be in the SHL next year. His team and William Eklund, both on the same team. They're going to be in the SHL. They move up from the Allsvenskan, so that'll be fun. But he's playing in the U18 Worlds right now. He flew over from Sweden.
Yeah, but to the to Odyssey, I don't know how they want to pronounce, but to their question, everybody's expendable at this point. It's just a matter of for what. The package has to be right. You got to listen on everybody. You're not in a position to be picky. But what I ended up doing, because one of the other things that a lot of people, I don't think I've heard anybody mention it when it comes to the draft and development part for Don Sweeney, is when you look at his drafting, right? Like 2015, we're tossing that aside because that was Gretzky. That was what he did. All right. So now Sweeney is kind of taking a little more of the mantle, and that's where you got McAvoy, Frederick, Lindgren, all solid NHL players. Oscar Steen was decent in his NHL seasons. 2017 was a bit weaker, but you were able to turn it into something because you traded Vakanainen and you traded Stadnyko. Hopefully you get something out of that deal. And Swayman. Not every draft is going to be a hit. But 17, 18, 19, and 20. 20 not so much because you got Duran, Kuntar, and Lohrei already pro right now. Langenbrunner on his way. What I did was I looked at 18, 19, 20, and 21. I went from 2018 all the way to 2022. What is that? 2, 4, 6 drafts. Right? I wanted to have equal plus to equal minus from 2020 because 2020 saw every single minor league team shut down. So everybody's scouting went to shit. Everybody's development programs went to non-existent. So I wanted to see how the league did compared to the Bruins in that time frame based on drafting and developing because, the Bruins have had some problems in that 6-year span. But when you really look at the numbers, everyone had problems in that year. The problem is we want to look at the successes and not the failures. So of that draft, there were 100 of that time span. There were 156 players taken in the first round. 59%, almost 60% of them have played more than 75 games in the NHL. That was the threshold. I went 75 games just because it's not quite a full season. It's a little lower because you want to also account for goal time. Like I literally didn't care about position, and I didn't care about goal scoring, any of that stuff, because the whole point of drafting is to get players who can play in the National Hockey League. Beyond that, whether they're a bottom 4 or a top 6, it does not ultimately matter as long as you drafted them and they had NHL success. Your scouting did their job. That's what I was trying to measure with this. Now, in that time frame, the Bruins had a total of 27 picks. In 6 years, 27 picks. Do you have any idea how that ranks compared to the other 31 teams over that time?
Last.
Not quite. I don't want categories on, that's why. I have to get my table to organize the right way here. They sometimes I hate. Oh, Toronto just tied it.
Oh, great. All we need is a Toronto sweep.
Do you think it'd be a sweep though?
Not a convincing one, I'll say
Oh,
that. I mean, they struggled in 2 of the 3 games so far.
oh, that's why. All right. Let me just move. Some of my data screws up if I'm just gonna move it to another page here real quick. So the average number of selections per team was 34. The Bruins had 27 picks. Now the lowest was Seattle with 18. And the highest, guess who had the most picks over that time?
Islanders.
They were actually, let's see, that would have been 11th.
Buffalo?
Nope, but you're much closer in that regard. They had 39.
Ottawa?
No, it was Detroit.
Detroit.
Detroit made 50 draft picks over that time frame.
Yeah.
50 of them. We made 27. The average was 34. Like, that right there alone gives you an idea. Now, the average number of games played, because again, that's kind of where we're looking at. Boston's close to the bottom of that list. They're 4th on the list with 17.3 games, average games played per player. All right. The team with the highest has 55. 56 because, you got to take the point. You can't have 0.2 games. You round that up. Call it 55 games, though. That's Ottawa. Look how long it took Ottawa to finally make the playoffs with drafting 39 players, so more players than you, averaging more time than you on ice between them. They're finally back in the playoffs. The teams that got fewer NHL games out of their draft picks than you did, Tampa Bay, number 1. Pittsburgh and San Jose. Those are the 3 teams that got less out of their first. Now, how many first-round picks did they make in that year? In that 6-year span? Boston.
2.
They made 2. You know who else made 2?
Tampa.
Tampa Bay, Pittsburgh, Seattle, and Toronto. You know who made 9 first-round picks in that 6-year span?
Detroit.
Buffalo.
Buffalo.
So that all of this to say that those 6 years, total shit show for everybody. Now, your games played in that time frame from your draft picks, 30% came from your first rounders, 39% came from your second rounders, and 29% came from your third rounders. So the first, second, and third round picks that you did make, you had about, what would that be, 90% of your success over that time frame. So that's fine. Randy's making a comment about the play. I don't do it off the Bruins, for one. Second of all, I have not been able to get to the barber in weeks because I'm on medical leave right now, so the income is significantly lower than it should be. So we're prioritizing a few other things, And then there's just been a lot of appointments and stuff. Really haven't had time. Hopefully getting back to work soon, maybe on a limited basis. But at that point, I will be going to get that taken care of. So, but it's not based on the Bruins, I promise. Yeah. The development process gone to shit in that time frame. That's my point. And it was for the entire league. So we can shit on Sweeney all we want, but it affected 32 out of 32 teams. Oh, one of his guesses was Arizona. Arizona made 42 picks over that time frame, just to put it in perspective. And then, of course, they got the fines and stuff like that for illegal workouts, and Chayka got fired. He was promising to be something, though. That kid was a solid GM, minus the illegal against CBA things. I don't know if you caught this, but Cleveland won 4-3 in that Toronto Marlies game.
I saw, who was it? Matejchuk scored, or Malatesta scored, I think. In the
Malatesta.
Final. Yeah, Malatesta scored in the
1905.
Yeah.
Wow. 2 OT periods almost. Let's see. Grimaldi got one as well. So, anyway, looking more forward, though, just because that's the better direction to look. I hate when Max does the little "we'll be back soon." It's like I'd almost rather have a commercial. Let's see. Oh, that's right. We've got Stars Avs tonight at 9:30. Do you think Colorado ties it?
I hope so. I hope they don't lose 2 at home. That would be a problem. Well, it would obviously be a problem going down 3-1 and then having to go to Dallas again. Like I said, I hope not, because that's my pick for winning the Stanley Cup Playoff. So if they're out in the first round, then March Madness all over again.
Right? Oh man.
Sorry, not this year though. Not this year. March Madness was pretty easy because like all the 1 seeds and 2, like there was no upsets. NIL is just killing that sport.
Oh yeah, I mean it's going to be very interesting once now that the NCAA can have the Canadian juniors.
Yeah. Well, I've heard like the NIL stuff doesn't affect hockey as much as it does the other sports. Like the other sports, it really is pay to like play for whatever team. But
oh yeah, that they're going to put where the money comes out. They're going to put the money. Or the money going to go out where it mostly comes in. So football is going to be basically rigged at this point for the big schools in college football.
USA just scored.
That's the U18, right?
Yeah. So these are the guys that are going to be drafted this year. I think it was Will Moore who just scored. So he was I think he's dual citizen. He's Canada and the United States. I think he played for like whatever it was, the Toronto program that they have that's pretty good, the youth one.
Yeah.
Because I was talking about this guy when the Bruins actually had like a decent stretch, and he was the Bruins had like the 17th pick, and I was talking about guys like Kayshawn Aitchison and Will Moore, and I put Denoyer there for fun. Obviously, before he completely skyrocketed this season.
Yeah.
But this United States team has a lot of guys that are going to be projected in the first 2 rounds. But the Swedish team is going to be incredible. Like they have Frondell and Sasha Boumedian, who is at BU this year. He's going to be drafted next season in the first round. So, or this year in the first round. But just I like watching these worlds. I would love to make it down to one of these worlds sometime in Dallas. Like they usually, I think they switch out like the venues like they do in IHF events, but it's been in Dallas for a few times now, and Will Horkoff just scored got an assist. So he left the national team development program midseason to go play with Michigan. He played his first game in one of those outdoor events, and he got I think he scored as well. So
Nice.
which also brings me to
Yeah.
my next point. Cameron Corpy, ex-Michigan goaltender, going to Union College next year and going to be at the Bruins development camp. He's a big guy.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to the development camp, just because there's going to be a lot going on there. Why can't I remember how to spell his name? Anyway, and I think one of the things that goes under the radar, like, you know, they're still going to send guys to go watch like Cole Spicer, how his development is going, and that's going to lead to them looking at other players within the USHL, for instance. And so I definitely think there's going to be some guys that are off the radar that, you know, you also want guys who are familiar with each other. I wonder if they look at a guy like Gavin Cornforth. I don't know how familiar you are with him. He's currently with
Dubuque.
I think he's someone they could look at in, you know, a third or fourth round kind of pick. I know that he's not ranked, you know, like one ranking system has him like top 100 and another one has him in like the 200s. So
yeah,
like,
well, when you get that deep into the draft pool, like you're basically like you have no idea at that point.
But he's someone who's you know what he can do because you've seen him enough. He's going to be he is committed to Boston College, so he'll be in your backyard. You know, he's a little bit smaller, 5'10", 170, but the kid can score, and he's balanced at his scoring. And you need people who can find the back of the net.
Yeah,
like that is your number one priority. Find guys who can find the back of the net.
Well, I also brought up another guy, Aiden Park, who's been playing with Will Zellers this season. They've basically been feeding off of each other. Park is projected to go around that 100th pick, which the Bruins have the 100th pick, so that'll be good. Or we don't know yet, but they'll have around the 100th pick. But, yeah, and he played with Zellers, and he's going to Michigan next season, going to be in the Big Ten, and I'm excited to see Zellers next season play at UND. He's going to have probably a bigger role now that all those guys left, like Sasha Boisvert and a ton of other guys. But it's going to be interesting to see who comes from the CHL because we haven't really seen many commitments like the big guys. We've seen Lidstrom, who's going to go to Michigan State, but other than that, we haven't seen much. So,
yeah, and I think they're going to target some of the Group 6 free agents too. You know, some of the guys that you know, they should, in theory, be part of the RFA class, but they'll be, you know, unrestricted, so they won't cost you those draft picks. And so one of the leading goal scorers in the American Hockey League for Texas, Matej Blumel, he's going to be an unrestricted free agent as a Group 6, and he's a 24-year-old winger. I'm curious to see it. And bigger dude. He can play the left. He can play the right. He's a left shot, so we know they want to add one of them to their lineup. But he's, you know, 6 foot, 200, 205, that kind of range. He can play a physical game. And he's leading the American Hockey League in goals scored this regular season. He's someone who can score. Now, does that mean he's going to come out and, you know, score like Alex Ovechkin? No, but at the same time, dude posted 72 points in 67 games for Texas. It adds something for you.
Well, now you have the question of, does somebody like him want to come to Boston because of what's been happening the last few seasons with guys not being able to get an opportunity? Like, I honestly, if I'm a player and I look at Georgi Merkulov and I see that he led the team in scoring 3 years straight and did not get more than 6 games in a season, I'm like, that's not a place that I want to go to. If I'm being held down in Dallas right now, because obviously they're a great team, I'm not going to go to a place that's going to hold me down. I'll just go.
But you just said it though, because for the past number of years, Boston has been that good of a team. If you're okay with being held down in Dallas because of how good they are, Boston won division titles, won President's trophies, made multiple deep playoff runs. They were just as successful, if not more so, than Dallas over the last 10 years. So now that they're going a different route, if you can go to management and they say this is your path to make it to the NHL, you're not going to turn that down, because you're going to look at Dallas and say, which team gets me to the NHL quicker? Boston does.
I'm just curious who's going to offer and because honestly, like, when you look at it, I know Boston's been good, but when a guy is putting up, 65 points every season in the AHL, like, I feel like you got to figure out a way to.
So he put up 54 this year, 15 goals, 39 assists. Last year, 65 points, 30 and 35, 55 points the year before, 24 and 31. And then his 1 year at Ohio State, 34 points in 36 games, 20 and 14. Now, he's also a smaller sized winger. He's under the 6 foot mark, and he's about 185. So there is that factor to go along with it. He's been great in the American Hockey League, but he hasn't developed certain parts of his game, and it's shown. He still causes more turnovers. He's still, like, we've talked about the maturity in Fabian Liesel's game as both on and off the ice for him. He had a much larger gap from where he was to where he needed to be, and he was able to bridge a lot more of that gap. Merkulov has shown to have a much smaller gap as a person maturity-wise, but his game had just as much gap as Liesel's, just about. And while he's done a good job of bridging that, he still makes mistakes often. And they cost you goals. They cost you games. And if you're not sure if he even, like, there's also been the conversations that he may not want to stay. So why are you going to give him the opportunity over someone who knows they want to stay and can help you now? Like, he needs to figure out, does he want to stay in Boston or does he want to go back to Russia? That's been a back and forth thing for the last 3 years.
It's a little bit more difficult with a guy like Merkulov because he isn't really that typical Russian that goes back after a few seasons. Like, Merkulov played juniors and college in the United States, so it is a little bit different than the guy that played in the KHL until he was 22 and then made the jump to the AHL and just, played well but couldn't figure it out and then went back. So that's my hope. Obviously, like, we have no idea. Only he knows. So, but at some point, like, that's the thing. We don't know. Like, I don't know that he can't play at the NHL level, but he's deserved an opportunity, and I've said he's earned an opportunity, even if his game isn't as well-rounded as it could be. And it's the same with Lysell. Lysell is definitely not the most well-rounded player, but you let him up there and you give him time to figure it out, and he figures it out. Also, if you give Merkulov that opportunity at the end of the season, which is nobody's fault because he was injured, so it's not like, but if you give him that opportunity, maybe he would be more inclined to stay if that's what he was thinking about leaving. But again,
well, that's just it too. Some of those things happen because of injury too. Like, every time they called Zach Senyshyn up to try to give him an opportunity, the poor kid would get hurt. Same thing with Zboril, knee injury, torn ACL, completely basically ruined his NHL career. Like, the timing of it was not good, and so some of it is that if Merkulov was going to get called up, if they said, we're going to call him up for the last 15 games of the year, just like they did with Lysell, maybe they were going to call him up instead of Lysell. And then when he got hurt, they said, well, let's call him up. Let's call Minton up. Let's give him some time as well. Like, you know what I mean? You have all these different plans, and then someone gets hurt, and the whole thing goes to shit.
I'm just hoping for the future that stuff like that, like, does not happen. I hope that they still figure out a way to kind of get these guys. Like, I just want to have answers. Like, we go into the offseason and he's a guy we have no idea about. Same with Farinacci. Like, same with guys that have only played one game. Like, we still don't know. So
Yeah, I will say though, let me ask you this. For Merkulov, right? What is better for his game? Getting called up, going to the ninth floor and watching, or being down in Providence, logging top line minutes next to someone like Matthew Poitras, next to John Farinacci? Which one is going to help him develop his game better?
well, yeah, obviously being in Providence instead of sitting on the ninth floor, but Lysell didn't sit on the ninth floor. What he sat like the first.
But Lysell, by the time Lysell got his call up for a longer duration, we already had the direction of the team. By the time we were going to do that for Merkulov, he was hurt. So really what it comes down, because the obvious thing was to say, well, you take Trent Frederick out of that third line left wing spot and throw Georgi Merkulov in there. Well, if your plan is to move on from Trent Frederick as well and create that opening for Georgi Merkulov after the trade deadline, you've got to play Trent Frederick so that you can get something for him.
Well, maybe, but he was injured when he was traded. Like
he was injured, but look at what you still got in return for him.
Yeah,
because you had a sample size, a significant sample size that says that this is what he's capable of doing. This is his ceiling for this year. Yeah, he's hurt right now, but he's projected to return in 3 weeks, so you can pay a little less. And then when you look at the deal, you got a fair market value for a middle six forward who was injured at the time, but was going to play for them. Now, he got hurt again upon his comeback, but that's not a you problem. That's not a let's discuss that in our trade problem. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Trent Frederick wasn't that great either this season. I think he could have moved on from. I think you could have moved on from him earlier. I don't think the last few games that he played or whatever was oh yeah, let's go get him, because he just you knew everything you needed to know by just the first few months of the season. You look at him and he just wasn't great. But
he played 57 games for you. All right. Now, if you think about where they were at the 57 game mark, they were trying to see if I can find what their record was. Because that was right around the point at that time, they were 27, 24, and 8. So they were still in the playoff picture. They hadn't completely fallen off yet. That was mid-February. That was when he got hurt, and that was when he got hurt is when you were ultimately moving on from him. So as bad as he was for Boston this year, in those 57 games, he put up the 15 points, averaged 13.50 on time on ice. He still played a middle six role, and you were giving other teams an opportunity to see what they felt he could bring to their team. So were you going to take Georgi Merkulov and put him in the lineup over Trent Frederick? Realistically, no. So leaving Merkulov down in Providence until you pulled off the trade to send Trent Frederick out would not have made much sense. Once you traded him, that's when you would have called him up, but he was hurt.
Well, he wasn't. He wasn't hurt right after the trade deadline. He got hurt when they were playing. So what? He missed the last
There were other moves in there that had to be made based on building up the cap space so that you could call up everybody you wanted to. Plus, after the trade deadline, you only get the 4 call-ups. So they were having to go with emergency recalls and stuff like that. So there was rhyme and reason to when they didn't call players up. So he just wasn't someone you were going to call up on an emergency recall. You wanted to use one of your 4 recalls on him, just like you did with Minton, just like you did with Fabian Lysell.
You could also just move Trent Frederick. I'm not he's a physical player. He could play on the 4th line, bump Koepke out, have them rotate. All I'm saying is, and I'm not saying do that for the whole
that
season.
devalues the player in a trade though, because you're taking phone calls on Trent Frederick and you're trying to sell him as a middle 6 third line winger who if push comes to shove, if you have some injuries in a playoff game, you can bump him up to a second line role and he'll be effective for you. While I'm having that conversation with you, my head coach puts him on my fourth line. You're going to look at me and go, yeah, you're fucking nuts. He's closer to a fourth line guy than he is a second line guy. I'm not paying you for that. You just devalued your player.
Is 10 games in the middle, would that have been that bad? 10 games, and I'm not like, just get 7 to 10. 7 to 10 games. Like, after Trent Frederic, we knew he wasn't going to be that guy. Like, and then you put him right back. Like, it's
you're on the phone with me trying to trade me Trent Frederic, and I sit there and I go, so why did you put him on the fourth line for 10 games?
Because he wasn't producing. I mean, does any team?
Okay, well, if he wasn't producing, why do I want to pay you what you're looking for the guy? You just devalued your own player. You don't want to do anything to devalue your own player.
At the end of the day, I mean, I guess you can look at either way, I think is right. Like, would you rather have that conversation about having him move back for 10 games? You could also say, like, there was an intriguing prospect in Providence that's been playing for 3 years and has been dominating down in the AHL, and we wanted to test him out. And
so then why don't I try and look at him? Why don't I trade it for him?
That's great. That's great. At least then you have. But I'm just saying, like.
But your goal was to trade Trent Frederic, and now we've shifted it to it's great. Let's trade Georgi Merkulov.
See what I'm saying? Not a bad thing.
Like,
it's not a bad thing.
Given where Boston was, in the direction they were going, your value was moving on from Trent Frederic and moving in a guy like Georgi Merkulov in his place. You don't want to change the direction of that phone call.
I'm not necessarily saying that, like, for the rest of the season. Like I said, like, I just wanted to see 10 games. You can't find 10 games in 3 years to put this guy in straight.
So if we're going to the year before, right? You gave him an opportunity to take over Matthew Poitras' role when Poitras went to World Juniors. He didn't take it. He wasn't ready. You gave him ample opportunity with the same players that Matthew Poitras earned his spot with, and he couldn't do it.
One game, right?
No.
He played 4, right? 4. One was on that line with Poitras' line mates, and then the rest were what, on the fourth line?
No, he played the first 2 games. He was on that second in the second line center role. Hold on, I'm going to pull him up real quick. Because you really have to go in and really see what positions they put him into. Here we go. Luckily, there are only 4 of them, so I can get them all pulled up pretty quick. So the first game was the game against New Jersey. And that's New Jersey's lineup. Georgi Merkulov played. He had 18 shifts, 15:08 time on ice, and he didn't do anything. Not a single shot, not a hit registered, nothing. Okay? The next game was against Detroit. Now, the game against New Jersey, you beat them. You ended up beating the Detroit in that game. He registered a +1, 11 shifts, and 8:30 time on ice. That's when you started to demote him because he didn't offer you anything in the first game. All right. Then you beat Columbus with him in the lineup. You re-upped his time. You gave him another 18 shifts, 12-15 time on ice, and he had 1 shot on goal. Keep in mind, he was playing with the same players that Matthew Poitras was playing with. So why was Poitras able to generate when Georgi Merkulov wasn't? And then you had the 6-5 loss against Pittsburgh, in which you had him. Where is he on this roster? Again, absolutely. This is when he would play a 4th line role. 9 shifts, 6:23 time on ice. So you gave him 2 games solid 3rd line opportunity, and because he didn't do anything in those games, you ultimately moved him back down. Now, is it the greatest sample size of only 4 games? No, it's not. But that was the opportunity he had. He did not come in and say, give me more opportunity. He did not do what Matthew Poitras did to say, I deserve to stick around.
Well, Matt Poitras is a better player, in my opinion.
Sure.
Just better. Like, so.
Sure.
And like I'm saying, like, Matt Poitras burst onto the scene. We all remember the game against Anaheim where he scores 2 goals in a span of, 2-3 shifts. So, but I'm just saying, like, and also, like, you look at Poitras, like, he produces pretty well, but, like, that's what it was. It was just kind of like a spurt at the beginning of that season. And then since then, he's either been injured or just, like, not that great in the NHL.
So Poitras had 33 games his first year, 33 games his second year, 15 points, 5 and 10 his first year, 11 points, 1 goal, 10 assists in his second year. So he's been consistent at the NHL level, which tells you that where he's at in his development, he needs a lower league like the American Hockey League to further progress, to work on a few things. But at the time, his options were Boston or junior. And so things didn't exactly go according to the plan for his development either. You had to adjust a little bit on the fly. There were injuries not only to him, but to other people that kept him in the lineup as well. That's the other thing is he played more games than they wanted him to in those 33 because other players were hurt.
Yeah, and so going back to, 2 games, it's like I understand you wanting to, have your players earn it, but like Lysell didn't have a great first 2 games. Like players, like I said, you need to give players more than that sample size. I understand that he probably maybe wasn't ready. But then you look at this year, and we talked about the Trent Frederick, but when he played alongside Trent Frederick and Charlie Coyle in those 3 games, he registered a point. He was plus, right? Like, what's the problem there?
When you look at Lysell and his games this year, the goal of this year versus the goal of last year were not the same. Last year, your goal was we are competing to make the playoffs and make as deep a Stanley Cup run as we can. This year, it was obvious pretty much from the get-go that even if you made the playoffs, you were going to be one and done. So at that point, it became, how can we get the most experience for as many young guys as we can while trying to remain competitive at the NHL level, while trying to keep an eye on whether or not we hang around in this playoff race. He came up, he played the 15 shifts against Columbus. He contributed in that one, and then you sent him back down. That was the December game. That was Lysell's call. That was Lysell's call up. That was the one that was like you got all his family out there and whatever. You played him 11 and a half minutes. He didn't look terrible, but he still clearly had work to do. You send him back down. You call him up late March 22nd, after the trade deadline. You're established where you're going. At that point, it's, can this kid hang in the NHL now? How much work does he have to do? That's when you played him, let's see, what was it? 4, 8, 11, 12 games going forward. And that's when you saw 17 shifts, 19, 15, 15. Like the shift count stayed roughly the same. But when you were utilizing him, then you started creeping up into the 19 and the 20 shifts. You saw him go from that 11:30 time on ice on average to 13, 14, 15 minutes, almost 16 minutes sometimes, playing as a second line winger because he continued to earn and show that he could make tough plays, that he could skate in ways that other players couldn't, that he could get deep in on the forecheck, that he could get back on, in back check. Like he was showing those things, so he kept earning more rope. Now, I think we're both in agreement. Georgi Merkulov would have seen NHL time if he wasn't hurt. That's where things pivot. yeah, we wanted to give some of that time to Georgi Merkulov, but he was hurt. So you got to do something different. That's where you get Riley Duran, Fraser Minton some time. Minton also deserved the call up.
I look at the games earlier in the season for Merkulov, like when he played against St. Louis and he registered an assist. Like, I thought those 3 games were great. Like, I thought those were 3 games that, you know, I thought that he would have earned more time playing alongside Charlie Coyle and Trent Frederick. And let's not forget, like, Charlie Coyle and Trent Frederick, like, they were not playing well at the time. They were struggling.
No one was. No one was.
So you put him in that role, and it looked like he was playing well enough to continue to go, and then they end up just sending him down. So
here's a thought about that, right? You have all your veteran guys basically at that point who are playing like absolute dog shit. Do you want to keep one of your best prospects or one of your potentially best prospects, higher rated prospects? Do you want to keep him in a group that's clearly going downhill, that's not playing well, that is down on themselves at the moment, like, and is not an overall great environment? Or do you want to have him take what he learned in those 3 games, go back to Providence where he can play in a much better locker room experience with a team competing for a playoff spot and continue to grow his game? Which environment is more conducive to growing that player long term?
I understand that, but given the 3 games that he played and the way he was playing,
well, his second game was a -3 as well.
What was the line? The line wasn't like, well, obviously, like the team just wasn't great.
That was the 5-1 loss against Columbus.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, he may have had a decent game against St. Louis. We'll call it a decent game. And then he came out with a stinker against Columbus. You gave him his confidence back by playing him against Utah. He was okay in that one. But he was just okay. That's when you make the decision of, let's get him out of this locker room, put him in a more successful opportunity to succeed, and we'll call him up later in the year. You then called him up again. He played against Pittsburgh, Minnesota, and Nashville. Played okay, but proved that his game still had work. So that's when you said, okay, we'll revisit this. That was in March. Go back down for a month, work on these 4 or 5 things, 3 or 4 things, whatever that list was, and we'll call you back up in April. Well, we go to make the call in April. We want Georgi Merkulov. He's hurt. You got to take someone else. Because if you look, it was November, 3 games, and then it was 3 games in March. Time in the middle to work on specific things within his game.
Serious question, and this isn't pertaining to Merkulov, but at what point does playing in a good environment for so long, like, at what point does it just, like, it doesn't matter? Like, sometimes you're gonna get called up to bad teams. Like, it happens, and
it depends on the player. Everything, and that's the other thing. We all want to look at the situation and go, well, based on what was going on in Boston, they needed to do this. Well, as an overall arching premise, yes. However, when you look at individual players and what their needs are for their specific growth and development, it comes down to, yeah, but maybe. You know, would it have been nice to see Matthew Poitras get some more time at the end of the season? Of course it would have been nice to see that. It benefited him to go and stay in Providence, play 1C time, penalty kill, power play time, 3 different positions on the power play. He's playing the half wall, he's playing the bumper, he's playing, the point. Like, he's playing every position on that power play, which is the same power play that you run with your National Hockey League team. So he's going to be better in the long run, knowing how all 3 of those positions view the power play and how they all function within it. But you're not going to put him on the half wall up in Boston. Hell, he's on the second power play unit getting 35 to 40 seconds of power play time. He's not even on the first unit. Down in Providence, he's running your first unit. There's a big difference to how he's going to develop. I'd love to have seen him in Boston, absolutely. But I'd rather him be a more complete player next year in Boston.
But Matthew Patra's contract isn't up. And I feel like
now you're taking a whole other factor into it as far as his contract status. You cannot focus if you are a general manager and you're sitting down with a player and his agent and you sit there and go, well, we're going to do this in your developmental process because of your contract status. You're no longer putting the player's needs first and their development first. That means the player's not going to feel the same way about your organization. And you were just talking about, why is a player going to want to come to Boston if they think young players are being blocked? They're going to want to come to Boston because there's a clear communicated path on how to get to the NHL. Now, not every player has struck the perfect chord in that. I agree with you on that. And there's problems along that. However, if you look at a player and say, well, your contract dictates that we're going to call you up early, we don't really want to do it, but the contract dictates that we do, now you're missing the entire point of developing the player.
So you're telling me you would rather have a guy like Merkulov who played in those 3 seasons, led the team, you're going to let that whole season go just because of development-wise? I feel like...
What do you mean let the season go? Define that term for me.
Letting the season go as in, like, not really giving him a clear chance to make it in the NHL, or not a clear chance to have an opportunity.
So
and we talked about...
You gave him 2-3 game samples and said, this is what you need to work on. Get sample 1, go work on this. Sample 2, you've improved here, here, and here. Now go work on this. We're going to go get sample 3 in April. Well, we went to get sample 3, but you were injured.
Sample 3 is what? 3 games, 4 games? Like, that's still, like, for me, that's...
Who's to say it wasn't going to be 10 or 12? We don't know because he was injured. He never got to sample 3. But you went through the process of, here's the 3-game sample, here's what you did well, here's what you didn't do well. We're going to call you back up in a couple months when you've had a chance to work on some of those things. They call him back up again 3 months later. Great. This is what you've done well. This is what you still need to improve upon. Go back down. We're still trying to sort out what our team is at this level, but if there's an opportunity to call you back up, we want to see what you've done to work on these things. Then he gets hurt. That changes the plan. Now, going into next season, right? We're talking about what you do in this offseason. He is a restricted free agent. So he has essentially 3 options. Take your qualifying offer and sign it. Let's just assume it's a qualifying offer because his qualifying offer would be roughly what he's making right now. So let's say it's a qualifying offer. He can reject your qualifying offer and go back to Russia. He can reject your qualifying offer and not play, or he can sign your qualifying offer and give you another season at that rate. Those are his 3 options, 2 of which elongate his chance to make the National Hockey League. So if he truly wants to be in the NHL, he will sign your contract offer, whether it's $925,000 or $980K. And that's one of those situations where you can say, look, we were planning on calling you up in April. Things didn't exactly work out. So instead of giving you your qualifying offer of $875,000, because for whatever reason your qualifying offer goes down, we want to treat you right. We're going to give you a 1-year, $1 million offer. How does that sound to be a little bit more fair for where we're trying to go? We want you here. We're willing to invest a little bit more into you to show you that. Now he's more likely to take the contract, giving you that extra year.
Yeah. If the Bruins are confident that they will be able to, again, right? I'm not Georgi Merkulov. I haven't talked to Georgi Merkulov, so I don't know if the Bruins are positive that they will be able to get a deal done, and this is what they felt was the best for his development. Then I'm fine with that. Well, for my point earlier, like, so Merkulov got injured on the 4th, April 4th, and the Bruins had 5 games left in the season. For me, I don't think that would have been a big and that's if they were planning on calling him up the next day. If it wasn't, so like I said, like, again, I don't know if that's a big enough sample size.
I'd have to go back and look and see what the schedule looked like for Providence as well, because that does play a role in when they call someone up. If they would rather have them get, 2 or 3 games and then call them up on the Monday, and you know what I mean? Like, there is some nuance to that. And that's just when they announced his injury, and he may have been ailing before that in the hit in the game, because I believe he was injured in the game.
Yeah, he took a hit against Charlotte and then didn't return after that.
Right. So for all we know, he was ailing before that, took the hit, and that's when they said, nope, we're just going to shut him down.
Yeah, maybe. Who knows? Like, we have no idea if he was battling an injury. A lot of it is up in the air, and honestly, there is no right answer or wrong answer. It's just like, when you look at it, it's just your opinion based on, the season. And like I said, like, I understand it. I understand what's going on. And if they are confident that they are able to get him back next season, then all of this for me doesn't really matter. Like, then it's fine.
Let me also ask you this, right? Let's say they've had that conversation with him and they know that next year he wants to go back to Russia. Would you rather have had them call him up for 5 games, try to sell him on staying, and say, hey, we really want you to come back? Or would you rather them get Riley Durant, John Farinacci, and Frederic Brunet for those 5 games?
No, and you're right. If that's a conversation that they had and Georgi Merkulov was dead set on going back to Russia, then yeah. But again, like,
Ottawa scores
up in the air, and we have no idea what happened. Who scored?
I just looked up, and it looks like it was David Perron.
Nice, making up for that penalty. But
yeah, no kidding.
So again, it's a lot of stuff that varies on the in-house everyday talk to the prospect, talk to the agent stuff that we don't know. So It's fun to speculate, but at the end of the day, like,
and some of that too, like, I'll say this too, like, I've had conversations with agents and scouts and stuff like that, and there are certain things that they are aware of that sometimes they might share with people that someone like if it's shared with me, they don't want me to share it. You know what I mean? So, like, the trade deadline is a great example, right? If you're trying to trade a player, let's take Brad Marchand as an example, right? How many times did we hear Dallas, Colorado, like all these other teams, and then all of a sudden it comes out and it's Florida, right? If you're a media member calling me and I'm trying to have a decent negotiation with Florida for Brad Marchand, and you're asking me like, oh, hey, I heard this rumor that you might be shopping Brad Marchand. Well, I'm not. I tell you, I'm not shopping him, but we have heard we've gotten a couple calls on him. Oh, okay. Well, what teams are calling you on him? Why am I going to just straight up be like, Florida? Florida's the only one that's called me. No, I'm going to sit there and be like, we're dealing with a few teams out west. I'm going to send you on a complete wild goose chase to keep you out of my hair. It happens all the time.
Yeah, and this, like I said, like, once we get the clarity, like, if Merkulov resigns or if he goes to Russia and we hear that was his decision, then I'm not like, then we don't have this conversation. Then I'm like, okay, well, yes, that makes sense. But, like, right now we have no idea. And how it looks from the outside is that fans, I included, wanted to see more. We didn't end up seeing more. we look at the circumstances, right? We saw the games that he played all right, not great. But, and again, this is my thing. Like, I just want an opportunity. I want the opportunity, and I want a fair opportunity. Like, more. I think a prospect who has been playing at that level for 3 years deserves more than 3 games at a time to figure it out. But again, if that was the conversation that, listen, we're gonna give you this opportunity in April, or hey, listen, we're gonna bring you back next year, and you want to be back, or maybe he says, piss off, Don Sweeney, like I'm just gonna go back to Russia anyways. Then of course this conversation is completely different, and everything makes sense. So, like I said,
Right. Or maybe the conversation is, I'm not quite sure. Go ahead and give one of the other guys the opportunity. I understand not wanting to, because I can't give you a full. We just don't know. There's a lot of unknowns, and the problem with an overall fan base perspective is this is what I wanted to see. The fact that it didn't happen means problem with management. Like, not necessarily. And that's ultimately where I'm trying to give that pushback of, because of all those unknowns, which you personally are willing to acknowledge, there's so many scenarios, there's so many things out there that we just don't know as to why decisions were made, and some of it will come out, some of it won't. I agree. I've said it from the beginning. I agree with you. I would have loved to have seen more time. I understand all those reasons why we wouldn't have seen it though.
And I'm not like, I don't want to blame. Like, there's no blame. It's just like, going forward, I also want to make sure that, like, other players are going to get an opportunity given where the team is right now. And Don Sweeney said he will, and that's the direction that they're thinking.
Yep.
So I'm fine. I'm just saying in the future.
And we've seen it in action. We have seen it in action. Fraser Minton, Husnudinov getting a fair shake. I think he got a fair. I wouldn't be surprised if Husnudinov isn't back next year. They don't qualify him just because, as fast as he was, there was a lot of air. There was not a lot of production. It didn't amount to very much. I wouldn't be surprised. I'd love to see him back. Let me start off by saying that. I'd love to see him back. I think he would be a great fit on your fourth line. Honestly, a fourth line, Husnudinov, Beecher, and Kostelik. Tell me that wouldn't be a decent fourth line to send in on a forecheck, or to, you know what I mean? Like, wreak havoc on other teams.
Yeah. If your fourth line is not going to be like, a typical fourth line where it's like, you put 2 bruisers and then Husnudinov. If you put, a guy like Kostelik, who, or a guy like VL as well, who has some skill, you put a guy like Beecher who has speed and some skill, and then you put Husnudinov there, then yes.
And that's where you look at it and go, we're going to have a 13th forward. So if your fourth line is a rotation of Kostelik, VL, Beecher, and Husnudinov, you've got the 2 guys with speed. You've got VL, who's got a little bit more upside. You've got Kostelik, who's kind of a little bit of both. Kostelik and Husnudinov can play it in the middle along with Beecher. You've got Beecher and Husnudinov who can play the left. VL can play the left. Like, it can work. But the biggest question is, we know the overall arching direction. They want to be back in the playoffs next year. That is the goal. They want to make the most competitive team they can for next year, which makes me worried that they're going to try and swing for the fences on Mitch Marner.
Yeah, well, I hope not. But going back to the Husnudinov thing, what Don Sweeney said about their scouts were out there looking for players who were being underutilized, players that should be playing more minutes and weren't. He was playing fourth line in Minnesota. Now, Minnesota's fourth line is not like the fourth line that we're trying to set up for next season. It's a lot less skill.
You mean now it's
a lot less skill. A lot less skill. So,
real quick, did you see the Brazeau breakaway today?
I had to do a ton of schoolwork today, and that's what I'm doing after this as well. Unfortunately,
No, it was just one of those ones where you're just like, oh, I can't believe they traded for this guy.
Yeah, well, I thought it was great 1-for-1 for Lauko, because you know what you're getting in Lauko, and then you end up getting Husnudinov, who ended up being pretty good, and you get the pick. like I don't know what Minnesota was thinking. Well, actually, I kind of know what they were thinking.
Yeah.
It's just Brazo hasn't been great.
Well, I also what they might have been thinking is, sorry, Boston, we kind of owe you one. We fucked up your defenseman's shoulder.
Yeah, they they definitely. I wonder if they're gonna look into
Oh,
that.
and we shafted you on Pat Maroon last year. Our bad.
And yet Boston still wants to make trades. After the Pat Maroon thing, they traded for Letary, which I'm sure is probably because they had, they had
Well,
those.
now Boston has Letary, Lauko, and
Yeah, exactly.
Ustmanov.
So
and the draft pick.
Well, they also traded up to get Elliot Gronwald, who they wanted, which is in a much better position than whoever Minnesota drafted. I forgot his name.
That deal was made because of Pat Maroon. This deal was made because of Charlie McAvoy.
Yeah, so, well, they're in the playoffs and we're not, so I don't know who's really laughing, but, I guess win-win. They lost both the trades, but they're in the playoffs, so who knows? Maybe they're giving away charity.
Yeah, well, maybe. I have to say, I just refreshed my Twitter feed real quick, and I saw that apparently Anaheim Ducks fans they've put together a document that you can basically express to the team that you don't want them to sign Joel Quenneville.
Well, it's California, so got the Ducks hat on as well, but
sorry, I just saw that and Coach Q to Anaheim. What do you think?
I don't know. Honestly, like Joel Quenneville, not a bad coach. I know people have an issue with what happened, and what happened was not great. But also, like I don't know how I really didn't look at it, so I'm gonna be careful with what I say because I don't know what happened, and I'm not that like I didn't look at it that much. It was not something that I was like especially at the age that it came out. I was like 15,
Yeah.
so I was like I'm not gonna read any of this stuff. But coaching wise, like I don't hate it.
Just wait till we tell you about what happened in 2018.
Yeah, what's going on right now with Team Canada? Like, I still get the updates and stuff like that, and fans are outraged. And
I gotta say, shout out to I think it's Rick Westhead. He is doing phenomenal coverage of it. That dude is pinpoint on the whole situation, but we'll circle back to that one. So with Quenneville, like he's getting a lot of flack for his role. Now, actually, I'm trying to remember everyone. Let's see, Chicago. I do feel like that if the Blackhawks organization was hit with the forfeiture of draft picks, it wouldn't be as big a deal. But the Blackhawks basically paid like, I don't know, a fine. I don't even remember how much. Let me see if I can find it real quick.
Well, if it's a fine, I'm sure it's chump change to an organization like the Blackhawks.
Well, yeah, that's essentially what it was. They obviously had to pay Kyle Beach himself in the settlement, but they didn't forfeit any draft picks. Meanwhile, Ottawa, as a new owner, is getting forfeited a first-round draft pick because of a mistake that a previous ownership made in not sending over a freaking attachment with a no trade clause on it. Like, make that make sense.
Yeah.
Let me see. I'm trying to remember because the management is all of who should be basically taking the blame, but they're not. Let's see. This would have been 2010. 2010 is when the incident happened. I'm trying to see if I can find out. Whoop. Oh man, Toronto's making a good push.
Oh, I don't have that game on. I have USA Sweden.
Okay, so yeah, it was Stan Bowman. He was the team president. Al McSayek was the president of hockey operations. Also, because I know they had a handful of other guys who went on to become general managers as well. What am I getting here? Oh, like Kevin Cheveldayoff was a coach. Was he? No, he was a general manager. He was not a general manager. He was on the staff. Here's the page I think I'm looking for here. 2010. Oh, it's not going to list everyone who was in management. God damn it. But basically, when Quenneville figured out what was going on, or he learned of what was going on, he went to McSayek and said, "This is happening." And McSayek said, basically, "Go coach the team. I'll handle it." And so Quenneville, again, this is all supposedly what he did. Basically, at that point, he went, "Okay, I passed it along to the person who I'm supposed to based on what I've been told I'm supposed to do." Put it away, went on to win a cup, and called it a day. Well, McSayek basically didn't do anything about it. And so now Quenneville is basically a part of the whole thing because it's what, he didn't do anything about it. He didn't follow up. He didn't do this. He didn't do that. And I'm not defending him. I'm just saying that's what his supposed role in it was. And Toronto just tied it up.
Great.
5.5 to go on their 25th shot. Kachuk can't believe it. So, and it was OEL. OEL gets the game tire. And it looks like it was off of a follow-up to a John Tavares shot. So, ultimately, what really matters, as pissed off as fans want to be, what really matters is how does Kyle Beach feel about it? And how do other members of, organizations that Joe Quenneville has supposedly worked with to, as he put it, improve himself going forward? What do they all have to say about it? Because, if you want to sit here and say, "Oh, I believe in second chances," then when someone like Quenneville does something that then he needs a second chance for, yeah, you got to open the door for it to be there.
Well, if you're a team, do you want to bring that publicity? Is it worth it? Is there another coach out there that you won't have to,
And that's where it's every team is different. If I'm Boston, I avoid him like he's the Black Plague. I don't need that shit. I don't need to be the team that offers him a second chance. Now, whether you believe he deserves a second chance or not is a totally different conversation. The guy is proven to be one of the best coaches in the game's history. So someone's going to give it to him. So if you're one of the 32 teams in the league, you have to just figure out, am I the team or am I a possible team to give him that second chance? How much do I believe in the second chances? And then also, as we learned from the Bruins in the Mitch Miller situation, do my homework to believe he is actually deserving of that second chance.
Now, do you think
Anaheim
is that team?
From a hockey standpoint, absolutely. I don't know what research they've done, what they've done to, because, again, what we learned from the Bruins in the Mitchell Miller situation was they didn't talk to the victim. They didn't talk to organizations. They didn't verify. They basically said to his agent, what has he done to not act like a shithead going forward? And his agent made up a bunch of shit and said, here you go. That's what he's done. And they took it at face value and said, all right, cool, let's sign the kid. And that makes you sit there and go, did you not know what he did, or did you know and you just didn't look to see what he did to make himself better? And then it came out that it was all basically Fugazi made up and he didn't feel bad. There was no remorse and all that stuff. So now the Bruins look like total ass clowns.
Yeah, because either way, it wasn't good.
Right. If Pat Verbeek has had conversations, and specifically with Kyle Beach in this situation, if Kyle Beach has signed off and said, I'm familiar that he's worked with this organization, he's learned this, I'm confident that he deserves a second chance, you have my blessing to hire him as a coach, then who am I to sit here and tell Anaheim that they can't offer it to him? Just because I wouldn't offer it to him doesn't mean they can't. You know what I mean?
It's the same thing with Trevor Connolly and all that stuff that happened, and then Vegas ends up taking that pick at 21, and then people are more willing once the GM came out and said, well, listen, this is the stuff that he's done. He's gone and he's coached, teams down in, wherever, and he's learned this and he's done that. And now it feels like it's not as big of a deal as when it first happened, because now people understand what he did and what they're going to do going forward as well. Because I think Vegas also said, like, this is what he's going to be doing to make sure that he keeps improving his life. So whatever. But yeah.
Exactly. So again, just because I wouldn't do it, and I don't believe the Bruins should or would do it, if Anaheim wants to take that risk, it's their risk to take. As long as, and I'm not going to sit here and say yay or nay that they should or shouldn't, because I don't know what they've done for that background. Yeah. Now, from a hockey perspective, based off of what their roster construction looks like, where they are as an organization, yeah, that's a fit. He's someone they should be going after, because Pat Verbeek has already said that they want to be competitive. They want to shoot for the playoffs next year. They have a lot of really young talent, and Quenneville's a good coach. I didn't say great coach, but he has the opportunity to be a great coach. Great coach doesn't necessarily mean great person either. So let's see what he does. Now, here's the other thing that I can tell you about Anaheim. You mentioned it's California. They're not exactly what's the right phrase? They don't align politically with other areas.
They don't align politically with hockey fans as a whole, I would say.
I wouldn't say hockey fans as a whole. What I would say is they don't align entirely with what hockey ownership groups may want him to align with in some areas. I'll put it this way. Anaheim is not a team to shy away from Pride Night. So he better show that he's a better person. If it's going to fit in Anaheim, if it's going to work with them, honestly, as a person, it's also probably best for him to go to a team like Anaheim, because they're going to put him in so many situations where he can show what kind of person he is.
Yeah. So hockey-wise, it's going to work. But, going back to, the Merkulov stuff, it's a lot of internal stuff that we will probably not know about that's going to dictate whether this works.
And the only reason why we know about the stuff with Kyle Beach and all that stuff is because things went to trial. Same thing of what we're learning out about when it comes to the Hockey Canada scandal that we were just talking about. We're getting the details. I mean, again, credit to Rick Westhead, because he is giving all the details, and when he can't give details, he's saying that it's because of the press embargo or whatever
the
it is that he can't say certain
that they
things.
have.
Yeah, publication ban. So, he's doing everything in his power to put out as much information out there. And reputation of the players be damned. Good for him. He is doing it.
Yeah, well, it's the information. So it's like, as long as it's the right stuff, which you're hoping it is, it's being presented as it is. That's all that matters. Like, I don't think people really care. Like, oh, this guy's an NHL star. Let's shelter, his image. Like, people just want to know, like, is this real? Did this happen? Like, that's all that I guess I care about. I don't know about maybe Carter Hart fans or whatever else that were out there, but USA just took a 4-3 lead on Sweden. Colin Potter scored, going to play, or not going, going hopefully back to Arizona to play with Cole Spicer. That's the hope.
Toronto's seeing another OT game unless someone scores in 40 seconds.
So what is that? The third overtime game? Like, just and
the playoffs have just been awesome. Although Toronto's putting Ottawa under siege right now with now 20 seconds left in the game. They've spent the last 40 seconds in the ozone.
So this is the time where you gotta think maybe they just overexert themselves, and if Ottawa can find a way to win the game, it's a huge point.
It's going to OT, but I will say in the last 20 some odd seconds, Olmark looked frantic in goal.
Well, then good thing it's the period it's ending or whatever, because now he gets a break. They get to tone it back in.
But yeah, I mean, if you look at that roster for the 2018 team,
Makar,
they're obviously Carter Hart, but I mean, just you had Jake Bean, Dante Fabro, Carter Hart, Cal Foot's obviously involved with the whole situation, Drake Batherson. Let's see, Dubé and Formanton were involved in the situation. Brett Howden, Boris Kachuk from he's the one that was with Florida. I think he's in the AHL right now. Jordan Kyrou, Sam Steele, Robert Thomas, and then obviously Michael McLeod was involved in the whole thing too. So man. Oh, there was. I didn't even check to see if there have been anything, because there's been a lot that Rick has been able to put out for it, and it sounds like they're just selecting a whole new jury at this point.
I think that happened. They had to dismiss the jury or whatever, but I think they were going back same day to be restart everything. So
yeah, and I mean, from what it sounds like, I mean, they've been able to identify the ringleaders of the whole thing, and all they have all the information that we want to have. And now it's just a matter of having it presented properly to a jury to be able to find them as such. And then we get the information to the public. This is very much as much as we want to know, let the process occur how it's meant to. Because I don't know about you, but I don't want to hear about 3 or 4 more mistrials and jury selections and all that stuff. Yeah. Just it's finally this victim's day in court. Let her have it, and then let us get whatever information you want to seek on it that is now available. It's yeah. What are you working on over there, Mr.
Oh,
Keyboard tapper?
hold on. Let's see. Well, I gotta send that real quick.
Oh man, I just hope this game ends
Yeah.
soon.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're coming down to it on in school. Like I got like 7 classes. They got final projects and then exams. The exams I don't have to I don't know. I'm probably not going to study for them or anything. But the final projects need to get done, and the last 2 weeks, and then I'm free. Then I could go play men's league hockey. I could do more.
Wow, 2 weeks
2
left.
weeks.
There you go. Not that you're counting or
No,
anything.
of course. Just letting it. Whatever. But
And of course, it's the best 2 weeks of hockey.
yeah.
Right at the same time.
Of course, where it kind of got to the point where sometimes I have to shut off the game because I'm too into the game to be doing to focus on what I'm doing. It's of course.
Well, what's going to end up happening because we have a whole nother game tonight. Has that one even I almost forgot about it, to be honest with you, because I'm focusing on this one. I don't like how they're not communicating about pushing games back, by the way.
Well, that's the problem when they're all on the same network. Now it's difficult. You can't really and then what pisses me off is you have to go over to one network to watch the beginning of the game if that's the game you want to watch, and then you have to switch back over to the original network to watch the rest of the game. It's not great, but I'm not even watching.
Well, that's because you have cable.
Yeah.
I'm watching them on Max, and so when you pull it up on Max, you get the little preview for one game and then a preview for the other. And I just went and opened a new window for it so I could pull up Stars Avs, and I get this event is starting soon screen. But of course I sit there and I go, how soon is it starting? Because we're in between periods on the other one.
It happened with the same thing with the NCAA where that semifinal game went 2 overtimes or went to overtime, and then nobody knew that the NCAA had a rule that now the game has to wait 2 hours to get the next one going because they got to clear the ice, they got to clear out the fans, they got to get the broadcast set up and all that. So then fans who had tickets, you hear Spit and Chiclet saying they had tickets for both games, so they were just sitting there for 2 hours not knowing when the game was going to start, not knowing when warm-ups were going to start. So it's kind of just the same thing.
And some of that might be arena-based, some of that might be league-based, whether it's the NCAA or whether it's the NH, whatever. But it's just it shouldn't be that complicated.
No, I don't want to say laziness, but
Oh no. It comes down to it's a direct correlation to not wanting to preemptively come up to solutions to problems to prevent them. I can almost, and here's the thing is I can guarantee you 98% of the people at those games had tickets on this, which means you could have pushed that information through the app at which they pulled up the tickets from.
You could have just sent them.
It wouldn't have been
You could have
hard.
sent just everybody an email. Everybody who signs up, and then of course that information would have been put on Twitter. That information would have been communicated on ESPN. Really was not that hard.
Yeah, for a league that wants to grow the game, or in general for a game that's looking to grow, the people who are most responsible for growing the game seem to find every rake they can step on and smack themselves in the face with it as they continue to walk through doing it.
I obviously want the game to grow. I can't complain too much because personally, obviously everything could be better. You can always make more money.
Well,
you can always grow more.
Here's where I sit there and I go, we can complain because while the game isn't, we're not just going to wake up tomorrow and be like, fuck hockey, I'm done with it. That's not it. They don't have to draw us in I'm watching this overtime. I'm seeking the Colorado game. Like, I'm staying up until 3 a.m. if that one goes to triple overtime. Like, they don't have to worry about that with me. It's the casual fan that they have to make life easier for. And what they should do is they should be asking fans what makes your life easier. So I know right now they're getting ready for overtime, and you've got a bunch of schoolwork to do. I'm waiting to see what the countdown is for when they drop the puck, just to see how much time we got before puck drop. So if it makes more sense for you to work on school stuff.
I was just telling you, like, I could probably just stay until the end of the Toronto game, and then if you want to, like, end it after that, then that's fine.
Yeah, we got to see who wins this. We got to know if I almost said Edmonton. If Edmonton gets eliminated, that's a tomorrow problem. We got to see if Ottawa sticks around. I mean, I don't think there's a chance they come back in the series, but I mean, do you really want to see that as a sweep?
No, of course not. I want that series to go as long as possible, especially with the Florida and Tampa series as well. Like that, that's going to be a difficult series, whatever team comes out of it.
Whatever team comes out of it, it's going to be bruised, battered, and beat to shit. Meanwhile, we've got Toronto sitting there waiting, going, all right, let's play whack-a-mole now.
That's what I'm saying.
Senators are done. Now we got, Florida up. All right, let's do that. And, I mean, don't get me wrong. It'd still be a great series. If Toronto can get past the second round, that means they're facing Carolina or New Jersey or Washington or Montreal, and you tell me which one of those 4 teams is beating Toronto in a 7-game series once they get past the hurdles of round 1 and round 2.
Yeah. I'll take Florida. Give me the Panthers. Give me Tampa even.
Like, once they get if Toronto can get past the first and the second round, they have no excuse to not get to the final.
Yeah, the hardest part is already done.
Exactly. And quite frankly, those 4 teams, with the exception of the Capitals, they should sweep Carolina. They should sweep Montreal and New Jersey. Those should not be close. 5-1 at worst. The Capitals, you might be pushing a 6 to 7 game series. But even then, your goaltending is better than their goaltending. Like, you've been as good offensively, like all that, as them. So, okay, so a 6-game series, 7-game series, and then good luck facing Vegas or Minnesota or, one of those. Honestly, with how they're playing, watch out for LA.
Yeah, I had LA making it to the next round, but I don't know. Did I gotta look back. I don't know if I had Vegas or LA going to the conference final, but I think what did we talk about? We talked about how they weren't like a team that could score consistent.
We were worried about their scoring.
I think I still put them through, but I don't know if I had them beating Vegas or not. And honestly, I don't even know if Vegas is making it to the next round, so we still got to see.
Well, I mean, now that series is tied at 2. I think that's a 7-gamer at this point. Dallas being up 2-1. I do think that Colorado can tie it. They'll get at least one more. I'm almost sure of it. Actually, before we go to OT, I gotta fire up the money machine here and see if we can't throw down on who might get this OT game winner.
Brandon Carlo. Put it on right there.
Oh, God, no.
Oh. Brandon Carlo, the master of just ruining zone time. If I saw that guy throw another weak shot on net after the team had 30 seconds of zone time, just the easiest glove save or the easiest shot in the breadbasket, I think I was going to go crazy. I think I was going to kick my TV or something because it really was starting to get unbelievable. if I was able to talk or ask like a scout a question, like a scout who's like doing juniors and stuff like that, pre-draft stuff, I would honestly ask, and I don't know if your opinion on this or whatever, but like if you're looking at a player that isn't near development or isn't near that NHL level, like what are you looking for? Are there like signs that certain players are going to be better than others? Because a player can lead his team at U18, and then when they step up and go to the next level, like that might not be the case, or it probably won't be the case. So like what are you looking for in a guy that's playing juniors and 16, 17 years old?
Well, that's the catch. That's what makes it so damn difficult.
Well, yeah, I'm just like wondering, like, is there something that people are looking for in particular that indicate like maybe that this guy is going to have or has the potential to be an NHLer? Like,
Oh yeah, I mean there's a long list of stuff. So real quick though, who we going with for a real bet on this goal here? First of all, which team do you think scores it?
Tim Stützle in Ottawa. Give me that.
Stützle plus 1,800 odds.
Not bad.
I'm throwing down on Shane Pinto and Mitch Marner.
Mitch Marner for Toronto. I would go Stützle and I would go Nylander. Those would be my two.
I don't hate those options. You're
also
at all.
Betting, so like it would also matter about like where those players are at, not necessarily who's the most likely to.
So the top two when it comes to betting odds are Austin Matthews and William Nylander at plus 1,000, at least according to DraftKings odds. Then it's Brady Tkachuk at plus 1,100, John Tavares at plus 1,600, and then you've got Batherson, Nyes, Marner, and Stützle all at plus 1,800. Pinto's plus 2,500.
Pinto, that's not a bad. It's not bad. That's not. Yeah, not bad to put down on that. How much did you put down?
A couple bucks. Nothing.
Well, I mean, a couple
nothing
bucks.
major. Although I will say this, at this point, I might as well go plus 6,000 odds and throw it on Steven Lorentz.
Yeah, you have no idea, especially when it gets down. Like when you start getting closer to that end of the period mark, like you have no idea who's going to be out there. They are dying on the bench.
Simone Benoit, Kalle Järnkrok, like Adam Gaudette. Tell me those are bad bets.
Adam Gaudette, Northeastern legend.
Scott Lawton even.
I know the Lehigh Valley fans have been happy about Nikita Grabankin the last few months.
Right. Well, and then of course you had Max Domi pot one in OT the other day.
Yeah.
Who would have thrown money on the plus 4,000 odds on that?
So that was another one where like the puck kind of gets lost and like nobody's like on it, and then it's just like the easiest just shot right from the slot. Just one of those head scratchers for sure. Mikey Burchild, underager, putting on a show here with the U18s.
I just heard more audio in my ear, and I was like, I don't have them playing right now. I forgot I have the other screen behind it for Dallas, Colorado. Yeah.
Wow.
So now we go to the split screen.
So why even bother pushing it back? Like,
that's what I want to know. Why are we pushing it back to 9:55 just because the other one went to OT? Like, Colorado looks like they're coming out flying. Not surprised, of course. Oh boy. Of course, one you want the game breaking goal, and the other one you want the game winning goal. I gotta say, it's nice to see Landeskog have decent play in his return.
That whole documentary is so like, it's so cool because it's like most of the stuff that's in there, it's like he shot it himself.
I haven't seen it. What platform is it on again?
It was on cable. Like I saw it after one of the games. I think it was like TNT or TBS or one of the games, and it had like the first 2 episodes, and a lot of it was just like shot on his own camcorder, and he just narrated it. It was,
Really?
I think after like that was before he decided to like make it into something big. He just wanted to like record it originally for like his kids or whatever, so they can look back on it. Or maybe for another player or something. But then he was like, let's turn this into a thing. And then you start hearing about players talk about like the cameras always being around in the locker room and stuff like that. So the first 2 episodes weren't like that.
Oh, man. Ooh. So how's that Team USA looking over there?
Not looking too bad. It's not going to be – they weren't as deep as these teams are. Well, this team isn't bad. The U20 team for this year isn't going to be as great. So when we watch the World Juniors, it's not going to be as strong. But this 18U team is looking great. This Sweden team is also supposed to be the best team, and USA's up 4-3 right now. I'm looking at a few players. I think.
Who did they go with in net tonight?
USA. Quinlan.
Yeah.
So he's one of the top goalie, or he's in the NHL's central scouting ranking. So that's kind of who I'm watching, just to see if he would be a decent Bruin. But again,
and he's going to Notre Dame next year.
And again, like, you have no idea at this point. Like, 1, this is just one game. 2, it's like this is 18U level. So like he's probably gonna go play 3 or 4 years of college after this.
But he's eligible. Let me just see. Yeah, he's ranked 18th by NHL Central Scouting right now. I don't know if that's NHL 18th overall or 18th.
No, it's probably 18th in goaltending because he was towards the bottom of the NHL Central Scouting list. But that also doesn't mean that he's not going to get picked. Like, we have no idea. So
yeah. 7th round flyer or something.
It's at the end of the day, it's just like, if you need a goalie, you go to your goalie guy, you see who would they rather take. It's not really, so we'll see. But it's just somebody to look at. There's a lot of players to look at.
Batherson to the box.
Oh,
wow. What? Stick up into the nose.
Is there blood? 4 minutes?
I don't see any, but I could see how there would be some. He got it right up under here, just like that. Wrote him up. And Tanev's trying to say he got blood. Oh, there's blood. Yep, there's the double minor.
Well,
shit, let me go throw a bet in on Willie Nylander and on
who's on the power play?
Let's go look at that Toronto. Let's go. I was going to say, let's just throw it on everyone on this power play.
Jonathan Morello just scored, and it was assisted by Kostadinsky. So Morello gets his 4th point. Kostadinsky gets his 1st point of the USHL playoffs. They're still down 6-3 to Muskegon.
Game 1?
No, I think this is game 2 or 3. So I know they lost one of the games. So this might not be looking good.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's also fun to watch because then you have this kid Charlie Trethway.
Yeah.
Right? He's going to BU next year. Now, he's going to be a freshman, so it's going to be one of those things. Is it a Dean Letourneau situation where he's going to be sitting there not being the guy right away, and he's got to have some time and earn kind of his spot? Or is he going to come in on fire and be a top pairing defenseman?
I think Trethewey is supposed to be a top. I think he's supposed to be end of first round, beginning of second round.
As I say, he's in that 40 to 50 to 60 range for most, but like McKean's has him at 58.
Yeah.
NHL Central Scouting has him at 46. Now, does that mean I wouldn't want the kid? I mean, he's 17 years old and he's 6'2", 195.
Yeah.
That's a big boy right there.
I look at a guy like, I don't know if I named him earlier, but Cullen Potter as well. Like, he's probably, I don't know where he's going to be available. Last time I checked, it was like mid-first round, which is not going to be Boston's territory. Hopefully, we'll say that. But
oh man, that thing just went flying across the crease.
I hope that's Ottawa.
It went across Ottawa's crease.
Not looking good.
They've killed off almost half the penalty. And now we have Hintz and Drury going at it behind one of the goals here. Looks like it's behind the Colorado goal.
Yeah, so some have Potter going early second round, which could be Boston, or they some have a mid first round, so who knows? We'll see, but
Ottawa clears it again. And they just doled out a handful of penalties to Dallas and Colorado as well. Oh, yeah, and Quinlan, 6'1", 175. Decent size for a goaltender. And he's only 18, so he's going to grow.
And that's like my question. It's like, what do you look at? And I'm sure it varies scout to scout. Like, what are some signs that some guy is going to be, a potential or has the potential to be an NHL player or an NHL star? Obviously, it's easy at the U18 level when you look at a guy like Gavin McKenna who scores, 100 and something points in 50 games against overage guys. Like, sure, that's a telltale sound. Like, that's obvious. But like when you're starting to draft him, maybe like the fourth round or the fifth round, like who are the guys? Like, what are you looking at in particular?
I mean, some of it is. Oh man, my screen's just got all messed up. Hang on, one of my monitors just. There we go. I think it's jolting back. My horizontal monitor just jumped over to my vertical one, and all the stuff went to shit. So, ooh, man, Omar just got lucky on that one. Hit off the knob of his stick. Oh, man. Ottawa's getting lucky on this PK. No, it really does differ. Let me see if I can pull. I want to give you like examples that I know you can relate to, I guess is the best way to put it. So if you look at the Bruins, right? What have been their biggest organizational needs, right? Well, for the last few years, it's been centers. So you're going to look at centers and you're going to say, okay, what did they do well that fits? So like Matthew Poitras, right? He's the facilitating type of player. what's his vision look like to see plays? Just because he's missing on a pass, is he missing on the pass because it's the right pass to make and his teammate's not there? Or is he missing on the pass because he's got no accuracy and it went off to fucking nowhere? Like, there's a difference, you know? And when you sit there and you go, okay, we've identified Matthew Poitras as someone that we want to take as early as we can because we think he can make it to the National Hockey League. Well, if we don't hit on Poitras, who were some of the other players in the draft that can be similar, right? And that's where you get in the 4th round Cole Spicer and Don Zlotchmelis. Because you know you need a center. You know that not all of them are going to work out. You might move one to the wing. And so that's where you take multiple.
And
you look at the 2024
and you're looking
draft.
at the same thing throughout all the players. You're looking at the vision. So you're going to get 4 of like the same type of player.
Kind of. Like, so again, if you look at those 3 players for an example, right? Poitras, Spicer, and Zlotchmelis, what can they all do? They can all help generate offense. Now, Zlotchmelis has also proven he can do it from the wing, as has Spicer. Poitras can do it from the wing. He's just got better vision, better intelligence, better hockey IQ for being down the middle. And his skating allows him to get back. And his skating allows him to play that two-way game that, you know, allows him to be both a threat offensively while being defensively in a right position. You know, you look at Fraser Minton, right? What does he do well? He is a great defensive forward, but his hockey IQ and his abilities to pass the puck tape to tape, to know where his teammates are supposed to be and who can actually get there. His hockey IQ allows him to play a more offensive game as a defensive forward because he can make the pass from your blue line to their blue line to find the guy who's breaking out. He may not be there himself because he's not a skater the way Fabian Liesel's a skater. But he can find Liesel, who's 4 strides ahead of him, and hit him in stride. So not only does he stay on side, but he ends up with the breakaway on goal. You know?
So when you're going to games, you're not like puck watching. You're watching
Who, me?
Well, no, like if you were going to like, you know, scout or try to find somebody, like you're not puck watching. You're watching a certain player.
Yeah. So again, every scout does things a little differently. It's like I jump around a lot more than say Dom does, right? Just because I try to look at everything as a whole, what players have done what well, who's standing out, and I kind of try to feel that out in the first period, and then as the periods go on, look at certain players' behaviors and what are they. So, for instance, when I went and watched Providence, right? The couple times that I've gone, actually, ironically, I've seen him play against Wilkes-Barre Scranton a few times, right? And so obviously while I'm there to watch the Bruins, Sam Poulin has stood out, right? And he reminds me a bit of a Brad Marchand type. He's a shit stirrer, but he's got offensive upside to him. And he's physical. He's a bigger bodied player. So like watching how does he interact both with the opponents and with his teammates and all that stuff. Trevor Kuntar, shit stirrer. They're very similar in that sense, but Kuntar does not have the offensive upside by far. And if you look at where they were taken in the draft, that holds true. Poulin was a first rounder and Kuntar was a third rounder. So there's that. But then when you look at him and you see, okay, this play is ended, right? Well, Kuntar doesn't know when to get out of the scrum. You know what I mean? He's going to stay in there. He's going to get the last word, and he might be putting himself in a position to take an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty because he won't shut up. You don't have the same problem with Poulin because he'll get in, he'll stir some stuff up, and then when the ref says knock it off, he does. So they're both very similar, but drafted very differently because of all those different aspects. Now, if you watch the way Dom would describe it, right? He basically will go in and say, I'm going to the Providence game and I want to see, Poitras, Brunet, and Lachmelis. And those are the only 3 guys he'll watch on the ice. And he'll grade them based on what they do on the ice and how they, what they do when they are on their bench, how they are with the coaches. Because like some players, if they mess something up, you want to see, are they going right back to the bench? Are they trying to get on the iPad with the coach and fix the problem right then and there? Are they skating off? And then when the coach kind of goes over them and the coach is sitting there going, yeah, you done fucked that one up. Are they looking at the coach saying, get out of here, F off? I didn't screw that up. Someone else did. It's the mannerisms, the behaviors and stuff like that. And that's why, not to harken it back to the 2015 draft, but a great example of that, everybody likes to go, but they could have had Matt Barzal. Matt Barzal was a shit interview. He went into a lot of teams and interviewed poorly, and a lot of teams passed on him because of that. They had a lot of questions about what he would bring to the team off the ice and in the locker room. Now, has all of that come to fruition? No, I'm sure it's gotten better. Fabien Lysell, why did he drop? Attitude problems, quote unquote. We saw some of that in Providence, but then this year we saw Ryan Mougenel say, Patrick Brown, get this kid's act together. Help him become a player on and off the ice who people want to be around, who isn't an arrogant asshole, for lack of a better term. And we have both seen the maturation of him go from step A to step 1 to step 7 over the course of one season. Meanwhile, what were they doing over the last 2 years? Trying to get him to that same point. And just as a matter of Patrick Brown was able to do it because he could connect with the player. He was able to take him under his wing. And basically your conversation with Lysell was, if you don't figure it out, we can move on from you. And maybe the player had, Patrick Brown was named captain this year. So you stapled him to your captain, and your captain can deliver the message of, hey, if you don't get your shit together, they'll ship you out of town. That's not something you want the general manager telling the player, because now that creates a little bit more hostility between the player and the organization.
Yeah. So how many games personally for you, do you have to see to definitively, say? Because, you go to one game, it could just be a good game or a bad game. What's your, mark there?
So Colorado just went up, and they've killed off the double minor, by the way. I think to try and give an answer is unfair across the board, because even now you look at a player like Morgan Geekie, right? How many people have been sitting here saying all season long, all off season last year, he's a middle six. You want him on your third line. He's a third line winger on a cup contending team. Yeah, that very well may be true. But he also just shoved it in everyone's face this year. He can play on a first line with all-star players. Now, it's not necessarily, do you want him on your third line? Do you want him on your first line? It's, where does he fit best on your roster with those players? There's a reason Brian Rust hasn't moved off the wing of Sidney Crosby his entire career. You found something that works. Why? You don't fix something that ain't broken. I worry if we're going to get a second OT here. We got 6:58 left in the first one. By the way, Toronto is outshooting Ottawa 34-18. Logan O'Connor got the goal for Colorado, and it was a shorthanded goal, by the way.
Nice. USA's up 5-3 right now on Sweden.
All right, here we go. Marner's on the ice right now.
I wonder how much attitude issues factor into a pick in the NHL I know in the NFL, like you look at a guy like Shedeur Sanders and you might say, well, this guy has attitude issues, but it's a lot different in the NHL where, a guy has
Would you
5 years, maybe 6 years until he actually, gets to the organization compared to the NFL that you're stepping on site. Like as soon as you're drafted, you're going there.
did you see the big long statement that was allegedly put out by an NFL
No.
executive
What
about
did it say?
Oh, when I say long, I mean
Oh, shit.
lengthy.
What executive is it, or is it anonymous?
They didn't put oh god, no, I wouldn't put my name to this one either. Let's see, some of these. Let's see. Imagine Terrell Owens, his father, Chad Johnson, and Jim McMahon multiplied by 10,000. This, let's see. Assessment that the coach suggested that they go for. He wore so much cologne to the interview assessment that the coach suggested they go for a walk because he was concerned the individual might faint from the overpowering scent. He wore headphones around his neck with music playing throughout the entire interview and brought his entire entourage to the building. Quote, in my 33 years in the NFL, I have never encountered a prima donna of this caliber, end quote. When asked where he envisioned himself in 5 years, his reply was, quote, mayor of the city, unquote.
Oh my god.
Followed by loud laughter and clapping. His quarterback skills are mediocre at best. If he were playing in the SEC, we wouldn't even be having this conversation because he wouldn't have been a starter.
Jesus.
Quote, and let's say hypothetically someone does draft him and they lose their first 4 or 5 games. Do you think an organization wants to hear him complain with his father screaming racism or critiquing the coaching staff on ESPN about why his son is a subpar player, end quote?
Not to mention, Shedeur, Deion Sanders says he wanted to coach his son at the NFL level. So imagine drafting a guy whose dad wants to take your spot. I would say, I'd say no.
Quote, the few defensive players who saw him wanted us to draft him solely so they could knock him out in practice, end quote.
Oh my god.
If anyone drafts him, my guess is it will be the Cowboys with Jerry Jones doing a favor for Dion. You would think having a Hall of Fame father would lead to advice against acting like a jerk, but he's not a team player. He's a me player. He's a young kid, and young kids make mistakes. But all this talk about God's plan with the Sanders entourage, well, God's plan just humbled that young man and showed him his behavior stinks like the rest of us.
Yeah. Who?
My prediction is he'll be a backup and end up another Johnny Manziel.
Who posted that?
I'll send it to you. Let's see. Quote, if there's one person to blame for this, it's his father, who still hasn't learned anything at 57 years old, walking into Jackson State, then Colorado, dancing around like MC Hammer, trying to put the spotlight on himself during pre-games and half-times. He's a total jerk-off, end quote.
Oh, my God. Nightmare.
If any of that is even partially true, no wonder he didn't go anywhere close to the top 25.
You know, it's funny. Like, I could see it. I think that's the problem.
Oh,
like,
absolutely.
I can actually see that happening.
Absolutely. Like. But here's the thing: name an NHL player. Well, I can name an NHL player actually, but like name more than like 2 or 3 NHL players who have that kind of attitude. Like the Bruins drafted one, and Dom has the hilarious story about it. But Man, it
Yo, that's so funny.
if you go back to some of my Ottawa OT, looks like it was Sanderson.
Oh, well,
I'm confirming that it was Sanderson. He is just one of the ones that they were mauling and celebrating around.
well, yeah, Stützle's small. He could get under there, you know.
I don't even know if he was on. Stützle's in the pile, and he ain't the last one in it. Let's see what we got here. It looks like it was Sanderson because that's who everyone's hugging.
Wow.
So they lived to fight another day. Yeah, it definitely had to have been Sanderson. All right, so you had
Stützle.
they carried it in down.
Stützle.
They knocked it to him at the point. He kept it in. Oh, and that was just a deflection. Did he get a piece of that? They kicked it up to him at the point. He barely kept it in, too. Who's number 20? Did he deflect that? Oh, he kept that in, but barely. They might give it to Granlund.
Zetterland?
If they, sorry, Zetterland, Granlund. That's the Dallas game. I didn't think this would be a sweep. Sanderson, Joey is saying it was Sanderson. I didn't even look down at the comment.
Yo, this is definitely not true. Yeah.
What I just sent you?
There's literally no way.
I don't know, man.
Source
I can see some of it.
Dick Pooler 88 with 900 followers posting this. By OP's own admission, the person who posted this is a known troll and has been banned from the subreddit in which this was posted. This post is still up solely for engagement.
Funny.
So I'll take that as a no, but it is kind of funny that we
Probably
could actually
not
see that happening.
I know, but my point is if it's even a 10th true, like not much of it has to be true. You know what I mean?
Oh shit. No, even if it's not true, like the fact that I could see it, like this fact that I can see it.
But that's my point.
Like,
that's my point. Someone put this out there, and I sit there and I go, "Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me." Like none of that would. I mean, I don't think it would be that extreme by any stretch. I mean, I don't think, you know. I think something like that would even come out with a grain of salt there. But again, does any one point of those make you sit there and go, definitely doesn't fit the bill?
No, exactly.
Oh, that would also make sense. Okay. I just seen this tweet from Frank Saravalli. We were talking about Quinville earlier. He and Pat Verbeek were teammates in Hartford back in 89, 90.
Nice.
So there's a connection there, and it would make sense that something like that would be, you know, that kind of thing. Oh, man.
Oh.
What a freaking game. I'm glad it didn't go to a second OT. The Marlies already took care of that. And now we've got Colorado up. That one is a little less than 3 minutes left in the first. So I know you've got schoolwork. How's the U.S. team doing? Are they still playing?
Yeah, it's 5-3. 2 minutes left. Game's basically over. It's impressive that the United States have been able to hold off the Swedes as well as they have. So Joey's back, asking how the stream's going. It's going good. You missed out. You missed out a little bit.
He missed out on. Oh, wait. Now we got a penalty coming up here. Looks like someone gave Makar a pretty decent hit here. This could get nasty. Oh. Let's see what we got here, because Makar looks shaken but not injured. And Marchment is pissed. Okay. Yeah. So he turns around and he gives him a good one of these, like right to the face, like to the jaw. Not nearly to the extent of the Matt Cook incident. It's an elbowing for sure. It's one of those. I wish that they could have officials use their discretion to increase a penalty, because I'd look at that and I would say 2-minute double minor or a 5-minute major for elbowing. I don't know if I'd go so far as a misconduct, just because it's the playoffs. Regular season, that's definitely a misconduct. I wouldn't be against it, though. I mean, it was completely intentional. It was one of those get the fuck out of here hits. You know what I mean? Like a pop to the face. It's one of those, like, where you sit there and you go, intent to injure? Not really. It was intent to stun the player. Makar's fine. He's on the power play. So it didn't, he went over and drank some water and he's fine. It could have been a hell of a lot worse, though. So that's for sure. Joey, I'm actually doing a live tomorrow with Gail Trioni for What's Brewing. So this won't be going on tomorrow, but we will definitely try and do some during the week, especially as the playoffs go deeper. We'll figure out tomorrow what happens with Providence. We'll still want to watch the AHL Calder Cup playoffs, even if Boston's not, or Providence isn't in it. Just like we're watching these without Boston. Kale did not stay down. No, that's the other thing. They knew right away that he was fine. I mean, again, it could have been a lot worse, but you'll have about 20 seconds left in the period after the power play is over. Joey, we're going live tomorrow at 6:30. So she works for Nesson, so she was at the breakup press conference for the Bruins. So that'll be heavy on the docket tomorrow. How the hell did he get that through? McKinnon just scores a one-timer from the Ovi office.
Love it.
But it, like, you could tell it just trickled through Ottinger, but he slowed it down like a bullet going through what's that material? You know what I mean? The rubber. Like, it just squeaked. Oh, it hit him in the chest pad, deflected off his shoulder, and then went underneath his elbow. Oh, that's one of those ones where you sit there and you go, you've got to have it as a goaltender, but it's McKinnon.
Yeah, so you know that shit's a bullet.
It's gonna do some weird shit that, he was there. I don't know. It's a tough goal to give up. Yeah, McKinnon is superhuman. Oh, man. And now the period is over, and we've got Coyle getting into it with Jamie Benn behind the goal, Nelson and Petrovic, Kiviranta. Everybody's getting involved now. Am I the only one who feels like Onger hasn't that great signs been that great since the series in 22? Feel like he's been fine, but not great. I mean, I don't want to use the phrase overrated because it sounds so negative, But at the same time, like, Ottinger was deemed to be an elite goaltender in the NHL. Like, we're talking top 5 very, very quickly. Like, in 2021, he played 29 games, or yeah, 29 games, and then he had 48 in 21-22. And just based off of those seasons, a 2.36 and a 2.53 with a 9.11 and a 9.14 save percentage, everyone went, he's elite. And there was no more discussion about it. Now, in 23-24, the 2.72 and the 9.05, those aren't bad numbers. And yeah, like Joey said, he's still a very good goalie. And yes, he is the future of the net for Dallas. They've already made that clear. But, you know, he ain't going to be putting up Hellebuck numbers. He's just not. And based on the bar of what an elite goaltender is, Vasilevsky, Hellebuck, Bobrovsky to some extent. Bobrovsky's off, so that's where he comes into play. But you've got to surpass one of Vasilevsky or Connor Hellebuck to be considered elite. And I don't look at Ottinger as someone who can do that. I think he can have games where he looks like that, but he can't do it for a duration of a regular season. The question is, can he do it for a playoff run? And that's what I don't know. I think he can do it for a partial playoff run. I don't know if he can do it for a full run. So.
Ooh. Oh, yep.
Game over?
Yep, finally.
There we
USA
go.
just, yeah, unfortunately. After school's over, we could stay on until 2 a.m. like usual, but
I know, right? I would be doing that. I mean, at some point, and we'll do. Wait, hold on. Joey says an elite goalie is one who can win playoff games by himself. Maybe not an entire series, but they can't almost disappear, or they can't make scoring chances disappear. Otter almost stole the series from Calgary. That form has to be there somewhere. Yeah, that's what I mean, Joey, is I think he can do it for a series, maybe for 2. I don't know if he can go all 4 rounds at that level. And can he do it for multiple years? He still has plenty of career left, so I don't want to completely write him off. But again, when I say a little overrated, I don't mean he's, a bottom 5 goalie in the league. I'm saying he was anointed a top 5, and maybe he's closer to 12 or 13. So, plenty more of Ottinger, though, and we'll see. We're going to have to keep doing these as the playoffs go deeper and deeper, because that's when the games are going to go longer. Like, oh, man, imagine a Stanley Cup final of Tampa, Colorado again. Tell me that's not going 7 games or 4 overtime games. Even if it's a sweep, they're going to OT. So, with that, though, I know you've got schoolwork to go do.
Unfortunately.
And trust me, I got plenty of stuff I'm working on. I think I've got about, oh, God, how many? I'm working on a bunch of stuff for the website. So, off-season content, write it now and then post it later.
Yeah.
So
perfect.
We'll be working on that as the game continues, and we'll do a lot more of these lives. And I know you and I will both do some where we're just shooting the shit while we're working on our stuff and all that stuff. So go get your homework done. We won't have to say that for too much longer for you.
Thank God.
And definitely flip on Colorado Dallas and have it on in the background. It'll be worth the watch. Joey, thanks for jumping on again. We'll have you on. We'll let you know the next time we come on. And we'll try and do something next week. I don't know exactly what day. And Kenny, any final thoughts as we venture off to do important homework?
Once again, just thankful that you're having me on. This has been fantastic once again. Unfortunately, we could not go longer. But once this school is over, 2 a.m. streams coming back. Marathon streams coming back. So
I love those. Those
got
are a lot of
something to look
fun.
forward to.
So, anyways, with that, thank everyone for tuning in. And we'll see you soon. Take care.